What up, y'all? How y'all doing? Um, let's see. Let me make sure I got everything right. Okay. Yep. Welcome back. Welcome back. Today we'll be going over a couple different debates that just dropped on YouTube. I hope y'all enjoy it. I'm just going to be waiting for some Republicans to call in. If there's any conservatives out there that's willing to debate or, talk about some of the issues that's happening in politics, yeah, just give me a call and we can talk it out. Let me switch this up. All right. And this first one is a Jubilee debate, and I skipped a little bit ahead because they're very picky about their copyright here on YouTube. So let's get into it.
You still vote for Democrats in 2026. You're voting for broken cities, broken schools, and broken borders.
If you would like to debate this claim, get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, how are you, Santana?
So, can you explain a little bit about what you mean, broken cities, broken schools, broken borders?
Sure. Well, broken cities, you can boil it down to crime and drug use. And I can tell you, having been here in Los Angeles for the last 36 hours, I have seen more homeless people, more drug use, more urban decay than I have seen in the last 5 years combined living in Florida.
Florida?
Yeah. In terms of schools, it's basically brainwashing kids and teaching them what to think instead of teaching them how to think. And then what was the third one in terms of, borders is the easiest one. I mean, under the Biden administration, we let in somewhere, we don't even know what the actual number is, but somewhere between 16 to 20 million illegals. If Donald Trump did quite literally nothing else in his presidency, just getting control of the border.
Let's take a look at this fact check. During Biden's presidency, Border Patrol logged roughly 7 to 8 million encounters at the southern border, with an estimated 1.5 million gotaways. So yeah, that's around 10 million. That's a lot. That's a big difference between the 10 million and the 16 to 20 million that Trump and MAGA loves to put out there. I think even a lot of MAGA conservatives will say that Trump loves to over-exaggerate numbers. So when they repeat the number of 20 million undocumented immigrants coming into this country, they have to be aware of the fact that their president enjoys inflating numbers.
I would say would be good enough, because you don't have a country if you don't know who is in it.
Okay, all three of your claims are wrong. Pick which one you want to be proved wrong on.
Let's do borders.
Perfect.
Okay.
Donald Trump is absolutely the worst president on the border. First and foremost, you can talk about the Langford bill, which was a piece of legislation which would have strengthened our borders, but Donald Trump had that legislation shot down.
Wait. So were the borders open under Obama?
No.
Or under Biden? Let's try that. The borders were not open.
What piece of legislation did he pass to open the borders?
No, it's not about a piece of legislation. It's about quite
so
literally.
How do you open the borders without legislation?
You just let people through, which is exactly what we're doing.
There was no one standing at the borders. Everybody just come right in.
In many cases, yes, actually. In many cases, they were quite literally moving barbed wire fence.
Where did you get this information?
There are videos of it. Have you ever seen the video of Bobby?
Did you fact check the videos?
Have you ever seen the video of Bobby Kennedy when he was running as a Democrat, standing at the border? He was still a Democrat.
Wait, you're talking about the same one that sniffed coke off a toilet seat and admitted it recently.
No.
The same one that actually took a dead bear and dropped it in Central Park. The same one that actually chopped the head off a whale. You're citing RFK Jr.?
Yes, I am citing RFK Jr.
No, I don't hear that.
Who's running HHS right now.
Which he shouldn't be, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Listen.
Exactly. RFK Jr. is a character, for lack of a better term. He's a very special kind of character that's done a lot of wild things. And if a lot of MAGA Republicans and conservatives want to call out Hunter Biden for doing drugs previously, then you have to call out Kennedy also. You can't get around that. Like, this dude was doing drugs on a high level for a good part of his life.
When you talk about,
how many people do you think came in under Biden? Let's see if we're even operating on the same plane.
The acceptable number is about 10 million.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So I'll grant you that. They say it could be anywhere. I've heard 16 to 20 million, but let's say it's 10. Do you think that's good or fair or just or how a country can operate?
I think that when you create instability throughout the world and then you also tell people that your country's open, then you create an actual quote unquote border crisis. Think about this really quick.
What instability
Really
was
quick.
Joe Biden causing?
What was Barack Obama's nickname?
Barry?
Deporter in chief. Barack Obama had a negative immigration rate. That means that he deported more people than he let into the country.
So you're for deportation.
So we can say that there wasn't a border crisis under Obama, right?
The border crisis was significantly worse under Biden.
But under Obama, was there a crisis?
Barack Obama did.
Yes or no?
Barack Obama.
Yes or
no,
no?
Barack Obama did deport. I think more people
Perfect.
than Donald Trump.
So,
Yeah.
but then
I wish
you're saying,
Donald Trump was deporting more people.
Sure,
Yeah.
I agree. So you're saying there was a crisis under Biden?
Yes.
Okay,
of course.
but no crisis under Obama.
No, I didn't say that. He was deporting.
I mean, yes or no? Yes
he
or
was
no?
Wait, hold on. Let's do.
Yeah, he's getting caught up here. The reason that there was a crisis under Biden is multiple different things there. Partially it's because of COVID and the situation that it caused globally. It caused several different countries, especially poor countries, to shut down. And the poor got poorer, and things got very tough for some of these third world countries. And yeah, I mean that caused more people to immigrate because of COVID. Point blank, period. Like you can't ignore that. I mean that's why that wasn't really a thing under Obama, even mostly under Trump up until his last year. But it became a big issue. It became a big issue under Biden because of COVID and several different things happening around the world. What's up, GGB? What's up? And Samaya, what's up?
Biden
He had a negative deportation rate.
Let's do Biden and Trump.
No,
Biden
no,
and
I
Trump.
just
Let's
need
do the
you to answer
last
the question.
two
Hold on,
administrations.
just answer the question, yes or no?
I am for anyone that will close
That's fine.
borders
I'll just
and
say,
deport
I'll say
people.
no. I'll say no. That's
okay,
fine.
Okay.
So if there wasn't a crisis under Obama and there was a crisis under Biden, what happened in between those two administrations? Was there something that happened?
Wait, are you blaming Donald Trump for Joe Biden's border?
No, what I'm blaming Donald Trump for is when he's actually campaigning for president and he's going around and to any news organization that will let him speak and telling everyone that the border's open. They're wide open. Come on in, come on in. And he actually created something that wasn't there. So wait,
you're blaming people coming to this country illegally. You're blaming Donald Trump, who really only appeared because of borders, right? Build a wall.
There wasn't a border issue.
That's what
there
he
wasn't
appeared.
a border issue when he said that, right? But then when there was instability,
We've always had a completely porous border. That
we
is
had a
very
negative
obvious.
deportation rate under Obama.
Hold on.
He created the actual desire for people to come here because he told the lie that the borders was open.
Wait a minute, but
And
why?
so
But
when
if
he did
America's
that, then
a
people started to come here.
racist, evil, capitalist country, why would these people want to come here?
Because it's still better than the countries that they're in. Because the United States of America
is pretty
keeps
good.
destabilizing other countries.
Hold on, what is this chat here? Let me enlarge this a little bit. For 1 second. You can barely see the chat, y'all. Get no. The crisis under Obama was everything he spoke was a lie. Okay. I will challenge you on that and ask you to detail exactly what did he lie about and what was the disaster that caused that. Well, what was the disaster that came out of that lie or crisis, however you want to call it.
Countries. CIA, our CIA keeps destabilizing other countries and overthrowing other countries.
So who did
We're
Barack,
doing that right now.
Wait. So who did Barack Obama destabilize that then Donald Trump allowed into the country?
The point being is our country has a history of destabilization. That doesn't matter if it's left or right.
So who did
We have a
Barack?
history
Well,
of that.
I'm just
But
playing
answer
your
the
game
question.
here. So I'm just
if
playing
Donald
your
Trump
game, man.
created the need for people to come here, and there was no crisis, then Donald Trump not only created it, but he didn't handle it.
I'm sorry, man. Nothing you're saying is making sense here.
What was Donald Trump?
Okay, we got to pause there. You've been voted out.
What country?
I won't say that Donald Trump created the immigration crisis. Now, he did say that the United States was open and he was inviting people into the country. True. That is a fact. But a lot of the immigration issues around 2020 and afterwards was due to COVID and the entire world shutting down. I mean, we can't ignore the simple fact of the matter. We can't just blame that on Trump.
Did Barack Obama destabilize that caused people to come here under Donald Trump?
I guess you'll never know.
Okay, you've been voted out, Richard.
Okay.
It's so easy to become a podcaster with Riverside. First, go to Riverside and open an account.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Hello.
Yeah. What's your name? What's your name?
My name is Maybe. Nice to meet you, Dave.
Good to meet you.
So I myself am a Democrat. I'm actually running for state senate here in California.
Okay.
I would argue that I am about as far left as you can get as a Democrat.
Okay.
And I'm critical of the Democratic Party because I actually don't think they're left enough. If we're going to talk about broken cities, here we are in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is not a broken city. I live here. I feel safe walking down the street as an openly trans non-binary person, as somebody who does drag. This is not a broken city. It is unaffordable in many ways, but that is the case across the rest of the United States. And if we're going to talk about broken cities, we actually need to talk about broken states. 8 out of the 10 poorest states in the United States are Republican controlled. And the majority of states that are the wealthiest states are democratically controlled. And these are actually donor states to Republican states. And the irony is that Republicans are against welfare, except when it comes to funding their states.
Okay. Well, first off, I would say I'm very glad that as a trans person you feel safe here. You should feel safe, and I treat anyone that treats me with respect. You're going to get respect out of me, so I appreciate.
Let's see. Most of the poorest states are Republican-led, which is true. While many of the wealthiest are Democratic-leaning, census and state legislature data shows that 9 of the 10 poorest states vote Republican, and 18 of the 19 poorest have Republican-controlled legislatures. Interesting. So if you're looking at the political landscape overall, outside of just metro areas, large cities, this fact check pretty much it pretty much debunks everything that this guy was just saying. The Republican-led legislatures like pretty much look over some of the poorest areas in this country.
That, and I'm glad to hear it. I assume you've been to West Hollywood, right?
I have.
I used to live in West Hollywood, pretty close to the Abbey, and I left about I moved to the Valley before that, but I lived there for about 6 years. And the 6 years that I lived there, from about 2013 to 2019, it was pretty clean and it was pretty safe, and there weren't drug addicts and homeless people all over the place. I spent the last 2 days there in West Hollywood. That's the hotel I'm staying at is there. There are drug addicts and homeless people everywhere. Everywhere. You would acknowledge that is the case, yes?
I would acknowledge that, but I would also acknowledge that there are plenty of housed people who are also drug addicts, and they never seem to be the problem. It's only when they're existing in poverty, abject poverty outside, that you have to witness it, that it becomes a problem. The issue is not that these people are dangerous. The mythology around people experiencing homelessness is that they are dangerous. The reality is that unhoused people are more likely to be victims of violent crime than perpetrators.
Well, all right.
Of it.
So listen, I can actually get on board some of what you're saying here. Now, there's a couple issues here, because one of them is not just about violence. If you are going to create the conditions, the economic conditions, or whatever you want to call it, that's going to allow for these people to be out on the streets, would you want to walk a baby in a carriage down that block as these people are there? I don't think you would.
I would, because I don't know the last time I've heard of an unhoused person attacking a baby. And these are,
you know what?
I would say
if you, no, it's not fear mongering.
It is fear mongering.
If you were a young mother and you were pushing a carriage and there were a bunch of people who clearly were on, well, now they have super meth or whatever it is.
Meth.
But it is real. It is a real thing. It is a real thing. That are on any of these drugs, you would not want to push a carriage down that block. But it's not exactly just about violence per se.
I told you I would actually feel comfortable with that.
Okay, so you would.
Most these people.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that most parents would not be comfortable with that. But it's not just about that. I would also say, if you spend any time in, well, Hollywood's become a total disaster too, but if you go down Melrose, you go down to these places that were once thriving, everywhere the stores are closed.
Okay,
there are not shoppers, but it's because of the economic conditions.
Exactly, it's a part of the economic conditions. So what we need is economic equity.
No. But who's been running? But Democrats have been running this city forever. Democrats have been running the state of California forever.
Republicans who are running to represent the city, including Spencer Pratt, is not coming in to build housing for all the issues that there is not enough housing.
I mean, there's no secret that a lot of what's going on in Los Angeles and the surrounding areas is not good. The homeless issue is not good. It's not something that I would approve of or anything like that. Um, Politicians are not, even if they're Democratic, that doesn't make them automatically a good politician. It doesn't make them politicians seeking equity. Even on the Democratic side, we have those that pander to the billionaires, pander to corporate interests, and things like that causes what you see in Los Angeles. It's the Democratic Party, specifically the establishment. They pandered to some of the more corporate interests out there. They've pandered to some of the billionaires and millionaires instead of taking care of the actual larger populace in that area. And I mean, if you want to talk about the homeless in Los Angeles, you have to also talk about the homeless in some of these poor red states. I mean, you have to keep these things fair. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, Los Angeles and all these different areas out on the West Coast, there's homeless there. There's poverty there. But you can't in the same breath ignore the poverty that's going on all across the South. Just because it's in a red area. Like, that's the logic is not following.
Housing in Los Angeles, but it's not a housing. The number of people experiencing homelessness.
No.
Yes, it is, because on any given night,
it's not a housing issue. It's not a housing issue. You could give drug addicts all the beds and homes that there are, and it will not work. It will not work. If you told me that what you were trying to do was figure out truly functional programs that would help these people get off drugs, and they could actually work,
like universal health care,
I could get on some of that. No, but just saying universal health care, and we're going to give health care to everybody.
Well, Dave, you haven't given me a moment to speak and retort. So what I want to say is that on any given night in Los Angeles, in LA County, there are more than 72,000 people experiencing homelessness. In LA City, there are more than 43,000
Democrat-run Los
people.
Angeles.
Let me finish.
There are more than
43,000 people experiencing homelessness. Yet there are only about 16,000 interim housing shelter beds. Meanwhile, there are more than 250,000 vacant units. Here's the thing, Democrats, what I'm saying...
Is your argument that Democrats have not funded... Is your argument that Democrats have not funded homeless policies enough because they've
My argument is that Republicans are not going to fund it either. They're just going to criminalize our neighbors experiencing poverty, and we cannot criminalize our neighbors experiencing homelessness just because they are poor.
But you seem more angry at Republicans who've had nothing to do with this. Republicans have literally no influence in this city or in this state. So even if I could grant you some...
But they have said what they want to do, which is come in and criminalize people who are living poor in public. And that is not going to solve the problem. That is going to shuffle the problem down the street. Is going to create more incarceration.
You're angry at people...
Let me read this chat real quick. The Democratic Party and most of the rhinos on the Republican Party are agents of the World Enslavement Federation. If you actually read UN Agenda 2030, you would know exactly. Okay. Why don't you post the link here? Poverty is a multi-billion-dollar industry. That is true. If you include the prison complex and all that, that may actually be true. They want everybody to live in a pod. They want to reduce the population of the world. This is universal health care is just BS.
You seem angrier at people that aren't in power and haven't been in power here in decades than the people who are
Hold on, let me read this chat again. The only thing that is expediting universal health care in Canada is MAGA's program, which is medically assisted. Why are you? This is crazy. Who is this guy? Millions Wrath, whatever. Yeah, go ahead and call in so we can talk this stuff out. You seem a little confused about stuff.
Actually in power. If you're angry,
I can be angry at both.
But if you're angry at somebody, be angry at Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom, when he was mayor of San Francisco, had his 10-year plan to end homelessness in San Francisco. I am sure I don't have to tell you about the drug and homelessness problem.
You don't. But what we don't actually have is permanent supportive housing. We do not have enough permanent supportive housing with wraparound services. So you can't just criminalize people and throw people in jail.
No. So we have a fundamental difference on what you can do for these people. I don't think that if you take a bunch of drug addicts and just give them beds, that that's going to solve anything. I think it's going to prolong it for the most part. Okay, so we have a fundamental difference there. That's just fine. But what I would say is aim
I'm
your
sure
anger.
that you would probably do drugs if you lived on the street as well.
Aim your anger at the people who have been in charge. Your anger should not be at Spencer
My anger is at the duopoly, which is both Democrats and Republicans.
But it's not a duopoly here. It's not a duopoly here. Here in Los Angeles, which has Karen Beck.
You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, thank you.
What if there was a song about Lost in Translation in the style of...
Okay, just gonna pull a new tab down.
He's quick. Hi, Eric. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So I really want to ground this conversation more in what I believe is the greatest damage that's happening right now in America, which is the affordability problem.
Okay.
And I think that there's no one who has exacerbated that more than Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans. We can talk about cities specifically, but I'd like to just talk about the nation as a whole.
Sure.
If you look, I was previously an economics teacher for 12th grade, and if you looked at the three primary indicators of how the economy is doing, GDP, the labor market, and inflation, all three of those are indicating that the economy is going in a downhill direction. And that's also validated by a recent poll. 73% of people in America are saying that the economy is in poor condition. Now, if you look at the primary things that the Trump administration has done, taking away people's health care in one big, beautiful bill, the war in Iran, which has raised gas prices, that's really the thing that is making everyone really feel like, oh, affordability, I need to choose between gas and groceries. This is the big problem that we're experiencing. So I don't think that going more in a Republican direction is necessarily going to be helpful for that, because we're seeing that Donald Trump ran on a platform of making the economy better. He appealed to people, the populace of...
And he failed at making the economy better. There's no proof or instance showing that any parameter of our economy has gotten better, besides the stock market increasing. And I don't even think it increased at the same rate that it did previously to Trump.
Of saying, listen, I understand the struggle. They pointed the finger at immigrants, at trans people, LGBTQ people, but then he made it worse. I don't think a lot of people were expecting that, oh, you know, the economy could actually go in a worse direction. So I just want to say...
Again,
Okay, the Wrath guy in my chat, Obamacare took away people's health care, and then it made it illegal to be a human being without government health care. That is a lie, and I will challenge you to actually give me a call in to actually debate this instead of being a keyboard warrior. How about that? Not to mention the silver and bronze and gold standard. That's beyond the point. It sounds like you're a conspiracy theorist connecting several different things in one instance, not really realizing that that is a little bit further back in history when we left the gold standard. Besides this and that and the other thing, goalposts, beach jumping. Yeah, true.
I think there's been a certain theme that I obviously I disagree with a little bit of the premise there, but I can basically get on board what you said there. Look, if you want to create the conditions for economic success, what I think you have to do is you have to lower taxes literally for everybody, and you have to eliminate as much regulation as possible, right? When we see a massive exodus right now, we'll use New York as an example. Since Mamdani has taken over, they have lost trillions of dollars in tax revenue, right? So the guy wants to fund big government programs, and what he's saying is, I want to tax these people more, and then he is causing them to leave. That is what people are going to do in a free society, right? We have states' rights, and in Florida, say, we have no state income tax, we have low regulation. We create the conditions for economic boom, and that's what we're getting right now. It's not a coincidence that
Republicans do not create the conditions for economic boom, or Mississippi would be the most economic profitable state in the country. That's just not the case. Republican policy is the trickle-down method, which there's actual stats out there to show trickle-down doesn't work. It doesn't. Like, I don't understand, y'all.
Massive corporations. And if you look at nothing else, between blue and red right now, do you know how many people since COVID have moved to Florida?
I want to touch on what you were talking about, Mom Daddy, because I don't know the answer to that, but I can say.
Okay, I'm not trying to get you. I'm not trying to get you. So 2.3 million people have moved to Florida since COVID, right? And it was largely because of COVID. Then there were economic opportunities. Now it's because there's a huge boom down there, and there's lower taxes, and DeSantis is trying to get rid of property taxes, et cetera, et cetera. You know how many people have left California since COVID?
Well, I would like to talk about
again,
the
I'm not
percent
trying to
of
get you.
billionaires who would
Hold
leave
on.
California if there was a proposed billionaire tax, and the percent
But
is
the billionaires-
less than 5%.
No, but the billionaires
That's
are
actually
the billionaires
a myth that
Hold on, go back. I missed that fact check.
If you look at nothing else between blue and red right now, do you know how many people since COVID have moved to Florida?
I want to touch on what you were talking about, Mom Daddy, because I don't know the answer to that, but I can say.
Okay, I'm not trying to get you. I'm not trying to get you. So 2.3 million people have moved to Florida since COVID, right? And it was largely because of COVID. Then there were economic opportunities. Now it's because there's a huge boom down there, and there's lower taxes, and DeSantis is trying to get rid of property taxes, et cetera, et cetera. You know how many people have left California since COVID?
Well, I would like to talk about
again,
the
I'm not
percent
trying to
of
get you.
billionaires who would leave
Hold
California
on.
if there was a proposed billionaire tax, and the percent
But
is
the billionaires-
less than 5%.
Yeah. Florida gained roughly 1.82 million residents. Pandemic era relocation, remote work, and no state income tax.
But the billionaires.
There's always been an influx of people moving to Florida, though. That's like per normal. Like I don't think Florida has ever had like a net loss of people in its history. I don't think.
It's actually
the billionaires
a myth that
Outside of hurricane years.
billionaires will leave.
But the billionaires are leaving. Peter Thiel left. Elon Musk left. But look at Ken Griffin.
What does
just
that
in
have
the
to do with
last year?
Let me check this down. Chat. Communism, socialism doesn't work, and universal health care definitely doesn't work. You have no proof of that at all. You can't say that universal health care wouldn't work in the richest country on the planet. Like, America can literally do anything and can handle anything. And for you to say that it wouldn't work, you're not really thinking about it. You're just saying that without providing any relevant information behind it. As far as communism and socialism, we already have socialist things in our economy. For the most part, I think our economy is starting to move more towards being a mixed economy. So socialist things work in a capitalist system. I mean, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, it works.
Well, if you want,
got to pause there. You've been voted out by the majority.
Yeah, if you want their money, they're going to take it. All right, I started.
Thanks.
He didn't try very hard.
And let's see, it would cost 67 trillion on a low scale. That's a number that I've never seen before by any other people that's actually having a serious conversation around universal health care. I've never seen them say $67 trillion. If anything, over a 10 to 20 year scale, we get close to breaking even because of multiple or all Americans having health care. It actually saves money because there's more people actually working in the economy. There's more people healthy, and there's less people going to the emergency room and racking up bills and debt. Less Americans in debt saves more Americans money. I don't understand how you don't understand this.
Not really. Hi, Kian. Nice to meet you.
Hi, good to meet you.
I want to talk on broken schools. You mentioned that you think schools are teaching kids what to think, not how to think. I just finished my student teaching program today. I'm getting my teacher certificate like right now.
Great.
Thank you. Everything we talk about in my program, every piece of what you guys would probably consider to be like woke critical race theory has been so beneficial for me in my student teaching and connecting with our students.
Give me an example.
Yeah, taking students' backgrounds into account when I am planning my lessons, making it actually engaging for them, is like the step one if you want to teach them anything. Because if
Can,
students
can you give me
aren't engaged-
an actual example? I'm
okay,
following
for
you
sure.
here. Yeah.
Like I have noticed a lot of my students are specifically concerned about like money and being able to make money in the future. So when
Sure.
we're reading Romeo and Juliet, we talk about the class like dynamics at play in that play.
Sure.
Because that's something they're interested in. So when I talk about that, they can buy in and they can actually do that.
Okay.
This is something that the right would look at and say is like CRT. You're just like looking at them because they're from like poorer economic backgrounds, so they're doing all this.
Well, you
and it
haven't,
gets
you haven't,
deemed about,
but you haven't
like,
mentioned
money
anything
and
related
being
to
able
race.
to
I
make
don't have,
money.
I don't have an inherent problem with what you just described right there. I don't see how that's CRT.
We're not trying to teach people what to think. We're teaching them how to think, and the way to do that is by getting them engaged. And I think we see this in that all the top states are all blue states. All the top states for education are all blue states. Do you dispute that?
Florida's number one in higher education without question. I mean, you check the
K
US
through 12.
check US News World
K through
Report.
12.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Florida's top
It's
three.
not. It's not.
We'd
It's
have
not
to
in the
check.
top
check
five.
check US News World Report. We can,
Florida is not number one through K through 12. I think it is number one in overall education, but that includes college education and other things. But as far as K through 12, it's not. I think it's all led by blue states.
not
we
true.
can fact
Okay.
check it. Yeah,
Please
yeah.
do.
Yeah. What I would say, my basic situation when it comes to
Yeah, it's right here. 24 to 2025, pre-K through 12, state rankings put blue states, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Connecticut in the top three. So the highest K through 12 systems in that index are Democrat leaning. Florida is ranked number one in overall education in the United States. Just as I said,
education is we should have school choice. We should have charter schools. We should have public schools. We should have private schools. You shouldn't necessarily be stuck in a failing school just because of your zip code.
I'm glad
And
you brought
want to
this
have
up,
as much
but-
choice as possible within the system. And then it also creates competition. I also, look, we have a huge
I'm
homeschool.
sorry, I gotta cut you off.
We have a
Private
huge
and charter
homeschool
schools
boom.
are not more inclusive. Do you know what the average cost of
Well, I
private
didn't
schools?
say anything about inclusive.
You said
well,
you don't want people to get stuck.
I don't want people. I want.
Okay, well,
I want
think
there to
schools
be.
should be inclusive.
Well, it depends what you mean by inclusive. So
I
what,
think
so what
that
do you mean
everyone
by
should have
inclusive?
similar opportunities, and the way to do that is
Sure.
not with school choice. School choice.
So you want
guts public
state? You want
funding.
state-run, no competition?
I think
schools.
having
Do you
public
ha-
schools
Yeah.
is the best way to
Well-
get the most amount of people. And if we make public education good and we actually
that's
put
a
resources into
that's
it.
a hell of a
I
caveat.
know, but that's
who's in
school
charge? Let
choice
me ask
is
you
what
that.
guts that.
But if you want school choice?
Yes.
School-
Where do you think
wait,
the funding goes with school choice?
Wait, I
it
think you-
comes from public education to go to private and charter
Right.
schools.
So I would have as many charter schools as possible, as many private schools as possible. I would encourage homeschooling.
So you wanna-
I would
Crazy.
encourage.
Yeah, we're having a school choice fight even here in my home state, and it's getting very crazy. I should say. The Republicans here, I'm in a Republican-controlled state, and they're very aggressive about their school choice stance, and it's essentially taking money straight out of the public schools and putting that money into into private schools and charter schools. This is dangerous to teachers that teach in the public school system. This is dangerous to anybody that has kids in the public school system, because that's money and dollars that could be invested in those teachers and kids. I think there's a little bit of overspending when it comes to admin spending in the education space, and I think it should overwhelmingly go towards our teachers and directly to our students, making sure that they have the resources and everything that they need. There's no reason right before school starts that a teacher has to go out and ask people for basic supplies for their classroom. There's no reason for that.
Eliminate
Not-
public schooling.
I think actually you could. Over time, I think you could, but I'm not calling for that today. You want
Can I tell you what I really want?
state-run
Can I tell you what I
schools.
really want?
So might I recommend?
Schools have always been state.
But
like,
has always been state-run, and how do you think that's working out? How do
I
you
think it
that's
was working out really great until
It-
we started gutting our funding. If we look at class sizes right now, can I
this
talk about
is-
class sizes?
Sure.
My teacher, my mentor teacher, has class sizes of up to 40 students in her classes.
So I would
That
create
is not.
more-
Let me check this chat. Some of the dumbest, illiterate, most uneducated people on the planet come from college. Dude, if you really want to have this conversation, just give me a call. The phone number is posted right there. I'm pretty sure you got a working phone that you can call in, or you can join the Discord. I'll even drop it in chat if you're interested. I can drop the link. You can call, and we can have this discussion like real grown men. How about that? No more little keyboard warrior type shit. Just give me a call, join my Discord, and we can talk like adults.
Sustainable. If we put more funding in, we can hire more teachers for those public schools to get class sizes down, which is the #1 thing.
So you
if we
think,
have
so
lower
you think
class
just
sizes,
if we
wait, let me
just,
finish,
you think
please.
if we just put more money into these things, that
I think
we would
if we
have better
hire more
results?
teachers,
Yeah.
if we hire more teachers,
Yeah.
then we have lower class sizes. Teachers like myself can individualize our curriculum. We can take individual students into account in our lesson planning, which is something I do because I was lucky enough to have a small class size. But other classes don't have that, so it's not
me
possible.
that you would be quite a good teacher, likely in a pod or at a charter school or at something where it would be more one-on-one.
I'd be a good teacher anywhere, I promise
Okay,
you
we got
that.
to pause there.
That's
we got
fine,
to
but I
pause
can
there.
see-
You've been voted out by the majority.
Thank you. If you want to make your own music, but you don't want to waste hours of your time scrolling, this is the plugin for you. Hey, it's Greg.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, how are you?
All right, good. What is one main metric that Donald Trump has made better off since he got in office? So like an example would be GDP, unemployment.
What up, Cosplay Toronto? Let's see. Mail works, roads, internet, all done by the government. Satellite systems held on by the government. Yeah. Everything works. The society is here. Like, I don't understand the line of questioning behind how does government do anything? Like, government makes sure that society works overall. Now, it may not work as well as you would like it to. True. It doesn't work as well as I would like it to. But it still works at the end of the day. It's for this country to be the best country on the planet. It works. The question is how would you like it to work for you? And that's the whole point of politics, is to make sure that the government works in a way that the majority, or a good bit of the a good bit of the American populace would like. Make sure that it works in a way that, they would like. And just go forward from there. That's how we achieve progress, is by changing things and molding things in the way that we see fit.
And inflation, etc.
Well, right now, first off, the big beautiful bill was just passed last year, and it's kicking in now, right? It's kicking in now. Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, how are you?
All right, good. What is one main metric that Donald Trump has made better off since he got in office? So like an example would be GDP, unemployment, inflation, etc.
Well, right now, first off, the big beautiful bill was just passed last year, and it's kicking in now, right? It's kicking in now.
That's not an answer.
Okay, so we're going to now see results of that, like even the tariffs. All right, so let's do tariffs. Are you for or against tariffs?
Against the universal tariff. So what's the main metric that he made better off?
What?
What's the main metric that he made better off? GDP, unemployment, inflation? Do you have any idea?
Nothing. He hasn't made anything better off. He's not going to be able to answer this question.
Listen.
I don't think you do.
Do you think? Hold on. So you're arguing that things economically were better under Joe Biden
At the end of his administration, absolutely.
Yeah. So can you give me an example of how?
Yeah, GDP growth was better off. Real median wage growth was better off. Inflation was better off at the end of his administration. Unemployment was better off at the end of his administration. We had the worst year of job growth in the past 4 years, just this last year under Trump's administration. The inflation, 3.8% year over year since Trump got in office. We're seeing all of those economic indicators become worse off. Can you tell me anything that he's done to make it better off? You say it's broken for Democrats. It sounds like it's broken right now under Trump.
Have you looked at the stock market?
It's worse off in terms of growth in 2025.
Oh my God, this Pam Bondi shit. They have no other parameter that they can speak up success when it comes to this economy outside of the stock market going up. And I don't even think it's going up at the same rate pre-Trump term 2. Like, it's not.
Just become worse off. Can you tell me anything that he's done to make it better off? You say it's broken for Democrats. It sounds like it's broken right now under Trump.
Have you looked at the stock market?
It's worse off in terms of growth in 2025 as compared to 2024. If you look at Dow Jones and S&P 500,
they're both up quite a bit right now,
but lower rate,
and
lower
doing,
rate,
and
lower
doing
growth
quite
rate.
well. You know, things don't happen overnight. So Donald Trump, for example, things don't. That's true. That's true. There's reality. There's actual reality. Like you put policies into place, and they don't just kick in the next day, right?
Well,
Donald
it's been
Trump,
a year and a half.
Donald Trump said when the
He
tariffs.
said in a year,
hold on.
prices would be.
Let's take a look at this fact check. GDP growth, 2025, 2.2. Under Biden, it was 2.4. Inflation, Trump, 2026, 3.8. Under Biden's last year, it was a straight up 3. Unemployment, Trump, 1.3, 2026. Biden, his last year, I assume, 4.1. Yeah, every parameter that you try to compare Trump now to Biden in his last year, it's looking worse.
Be down 50% for electricity. Are they up right now?
Hold on. Donald Trump, when he brought in the whole idea of tariffs, would you agree that for the last 4 decades, we have had completely lopsided trade deals with all of these countries where they're tariffing and taxing our products that go to them, and they're getting sweet deals when they sell to the American public? Do you think that's a fair...
Didn't Trump address that with the USMCA, but he went against that when he didn't extend it through the context of his new trade agreement because he wanted to place tariffs on all of them again. And his tariffs that he's
appreciate the subscription, CeeLo. Do I have my alert boxes up? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so they should be popping up. What you say, Homer? What's up, Homer? What's false exactly?
he's placing on are destroying our relationships with countries all around the world.
No,
it's
well,
it's costing. Wait,
when
please finish.
you say destroying relationships,
it's costing consumers here in this country. A Federal Reserve report just came out, indicated that we'd be below pre-pandemic levels of inflation if Donald Trump never imposed the tariffs in the first place. Meaning we'd be able to bring down interest rates and we'd be able to increase investment within our economy and bring more jobs back.
Hold on. When you say destroying our relationships with other countries, well, other countries were getting sweet deals, right? If
that's a lie. There was hardly any other country that had blanket tariffs on America at that point when Trump put all those tariffs out there. And when Trump put those tariffs out there, it helped inflation grow even more. That's why Trump has higher inflation numbers than Biden in his last year. Those tariffs drove up prices for Americans. You can't deny that. Here's the fact check right here. Like,
Canada, which was charging crazy taxes and tariffs on our products that were going to them, and we were basically charging nothing back. How can we sell to their market? So if they're upset with us, right? So China is a little upset with right now. Upset with us. We're trying to get fairer deals. Canada, obviously under Carney, is upset with us because we're trying to get fairer deals. Donald Trump is trying to reset things. We were basically the world's piggy bank for the last, it's really basically post-World War II, and Donald Trump is trying to reverse that so that we will have fairer deals. If you told me that it was just zero across the board and there were no tariffs going any which way, I could completely get on board that. But as long as countries are going to treat us unfairly, often while we foot the bill for their defense or a series of other things, and we give them foreign aid and everything else, well, then we should have equal playing field going both directions.
What better deal did he get?
What?
What better deal did he get?
What do you mean? Several countries have already come back, and we've
any of the conditions that made the trade better off. Give me the specifics.
There's nothing because Trump never really got a real deal from any countries when it came to these tariffs. It was mostly performative. There was no actual trade deals being done. Trump put these tariffs out there and pretty much isolated America from all of its allies.
Canada, I think they had something like a 60% tariff on cheese, literally on cheese, that was being sold from America, from Wisconsin to Canada.
That's a tariff on a specific item. We're talking about blanket tariffs, what Trump did.
And that basically is zero right now. That's one little example. I think it's zero right now.
Okay, so that's a targeted tariff, not a universal tariff. Can you name one country that had a universal tariff on us?
I think there are several countries that
Name
did.
one.
I think there are several countries
Name
that
one.
did. Honestly, I'm not sure, but I think there are several countries that did.
Okay, so why are we placing universal?
Canada did not have a flat 60% tariffs on the U.S. Yes, it didn't. It did not have any flat tariff on the U.S. Most countries did not have a flat tariff on the U.S. because that would be economically dumb to have a flat tariff on one of the biggest traders on the planet. Let's take a look at this chat. Tariffs are good for the country. Okay, one shot for the thrill. Why don't you call in, join the Discord, and let's talk it out. All other nations are forced to trade in the dollar to purchase energy goods, and while other economies are officially kept lower than the dollar, meaning we pay more for imports. That is not necessarily true either. I don't know where you're getting that fact from. Just because the US dollar is a trade dollar doesn't mean that we pay more for imports. Just because we're the trade dollar. Like that's making no sense. They put tiers on us? I don't know what you're talking about.
The tariffs.
So then why don't
I
we
think
place-
Argentina did.
But I do see a bunch of conservative MAGAs popping up in my chat. Why don't y'all give me a call? Join the Discord, however you see fit, and we can talk it out.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Israel did. I think a few other countries did.
Why don't we put a proportional tariff
Yeah.
on them, the same that they put on us, so that we can negotiate that down? It doesn't seem like Trump's looking for that.
What do you mean?
Trump's-
That's
Trump's-
that's exactly
hold on,
what
and
Trump
again,
did.
Let me just clarify. The tariffs are being paid by our consumers. So Trump, while trying to get his deals, is making inflation go up and making it worse off for you at the grocery store, worse off for you at the gas pump, worse off
do
for
you think
you
we should
when you're
just-
trying to buy a house.
yeah.
So can you, again, like you
Yeah,
could
I'm
mention
not-
before,
I'm
can
not
you name
sure
one
if you're-
metric that
I'm not
Trump's made better off
I'm
since he
just
got
not
in
sure of
office?
the premise of what you're saying, because do you think we should just have free trade with everybody without any penalization?
Let's see. MAGA is majority since the dollar was turned into a fiat currency, backed up by empty promises and loaded guns. The world economy has been captured. Anti-Trump is anti-America. One shot thrill. Why don't you call in? You seem like just the type of person I need to talk to. Trump is the most corrupt president in American history. Call in and prove me wrong.
You were
going
like
either way.
libertarian. Don't you want
Yeah.
free trade?
No, that's what I'm saying. So,
Okay.
so I think you're agreeing with me. What Donald
But
Trump is trying
he
to
hasn't
do is
overall decreased tariffs.
He's trying.
The
because it
Supreme Court
doesn't-
did more to decrease tariffs than he did.
It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah,
They're
you keep saying that.
negotiating these things.
Have we done anything in his office yet?
Yes.
What?
Yes. Scott Besson every day is negotiating with these other countries. You think that
I
he
think
can
the
just
negotiations are.
He's still negotiating with other countries about tariffs. Do you understand that Donald Trump is supposed to be the biggest negotiator, the best negotiator that this country has ever seen, but he can't seem to negotiate a damn thing, including Iran. Like, if it gets to a point where you have to go to war, then your negotiation skills is shady. I don't know what else to tell you. There's no point of negotiating. There's no point of negotiating if you're resorting to violence as a negotiation tactic. That's not really negotiating. That's just being aggressive.
We're worse off with the JCPOA. We have less political concessions right now than we had a decade ago under the JCPOA. So tell me, what political concessions have we got with the war with Iran since Trump started it?
Well, right now, Iran literally exports no oil. Every day, they are losing $500 million. So what you can do over time is you
not
have
the
a
case. They're
military
not
advantage.
Well, the fact check is right here. Iran is not exporting no oil. Iran is still exporting oil. And it's not losing $500 million a day either. Recent tanker tracking data cited the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, and others shows that Iran is exporting roughly 1.5 to 2 million barrels a day and earning around $100 to $150 million in oil revenue per day. Iran is still making money. They still have a lot of their missiles. They still have their nuclear material. There's nothing that this country has achieved in this military conflict in Iran. Nothing. Like, Trump started this war and all of these goals that we're looking to achieve, as he says, regime change, taking the nuclear material and all these different things. We haven't achieved any of this.
Which we had 40 days, which we took out their Air Force and their entire Navy and everything else, and now we completely control their
None of those
economy.
were concerned. What's
And
the political concession since the beginning of the war?
What's the political concession
Yes.
from Iran since
Yes.
the beginning of the war?
Yes, name one.
Well, we're having negotiations with them right now.
And we haven't gotten anything?
We're having negotiations with
nothing.
them right now.
So nothing.
Well, we're in a negotiation
We've been
process.
in a war
I mean,
for 2.5 months now. We got no political concessions.
A war for 2.5.
If it gets to the point where we're at war, there's no more negotiating. Like you failed at negotiating. If we're at war already, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. Like, that's the whole point, is to negotiate before we get to a point of war.
How long do you think wars are supposed to take?
A decade ago, we had a limitation in terms of them enriching uranium to 3.7%. That was going to be in place until 2030. It would still be in place to this day.
We started
the JCPOA.
We started with this. They admitted they were enriching past that point.
The JCPOA.
Steve Witkoff said 2 or 3 days before the war started that they admitted they were enriching more. Also,
when Trump
you have
pulled
to,
out of the agreement, and then the original strike that we made a year ago,
you also have
they haven't been building up
You also
since
have to go on the assumption.
According to DNI,
Why is it that you believe the Iranian theocratic regime? Why would you believe that they are doing right?
That's the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, appointed by Donald Trump. So explain to me why you don't believe her.
Listen, Marco Rubio.
Lord, yep. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard did come out and say that Iran wasn't a threat to the United States. Wasn't an imminent threat to the United States. They didn't have any real capability to hit this country or have any real capability to threaten the homeland. Even if they did have some nuclear material, they were still a while away from having a working nuclear weapon. A very long while away from it. The only thing that led us into this war is Israel. Point blank, period. They've been screaming from the rooftops about this stuff for over, 3 decades now?
Why don't you believe her?
Marco, hold on.
Why don't you believe the entire U.S. intelligence community? Why do you think they're all lying?
So, are you saying that Donald Trump just ignored the entire U.S. intelligence community?
Yes,
no,
literally, that's what he did.
No, he didn't.
Yes.
That's it. That's okay. So that's an interesting disconnect that we have.
That's exactly what the intelligence community says. That Donald Trump ignored what they get, the information that the intelligent community gave him. They gave him the information. He ignored the information. That's exactly what they said.
I mean,
Then why do they contradict each other?
Marco Rubio very clearly laid out what was going on here. And by the way, Donald Trump and every president for the last 40 years has said that Iran will not get a nuclear bomb, right? Every president has said that. Joe Biden said no. Remember, Kamala Harris said no or
the JCPOA
don't,
limited
right?
it to a greater extent.
All of these presidents had some type of nuclear deal on the table. Obama had the Iran nuclear deal, which kept Iran at a certain enrichment level, and they abided by that deal. The only reason that Iran started enriching up to a weapons grade level is because Trump pulled out of the nuclear deal. Trump, in his first term, pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal. Then Iran started enriching up to weapon grade level. Trump caused the issue that he's complaining about.
Why didn't you address that point?
Again, you are going on the assumption that you can trust these random.
This chat. They are not allowed to weaponize Israel's being attacked by them moron. That's weird because if I remember right, Israel attacked Iran first. Now, if you wanted to talk about their proxies or wherever you want, that's fine. But as far as the actual state of Iran, Israel attacked first. Because they said they were close to a nuclear weapon.
Inspectors that are going into these places.
IAEA?
Literally,
They're random inspectors.
All right.
The IAEA is the International Atomic Energy.
With all due respect, I think that trusting some of these international things that they somehow have America's interests or the West's interests in mind, I think is a kind of faulty. It's just a faulty premise.
So in the Iran nuclear deal, we had inspectors checking on Iran's nuclear material. Since we had actual third-party inspectors going in there into Iran checking their nuclear material, and we were in that deal, we verified that they were below a weapons grades level. This guy's trying to say that those third-party officials can't be trusted all of a sudden. But I guarantee you, if Trump came out with the same deal with these same third-party people checking on the material, that he would be for it to end this war.
I would
so
say
the international actors that are lying. They don't actually have legitimate surveillance over their nuclear enrichment facilities?
No, they don't.
Okay, so
they don't.
You think
they have. What do you mean? They were buried. They were buried under. They were buried under mountains. They were buried underground. My next surrounded claim is that progressives push normal, moderate Americans to the right.
Like to debate this claim, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
This sounds so clean. It's insane. And like, imagine how much you can do with this. It's.
Hey, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
So my argument here is that what progressives are doing is opening up opportunities for people to reevaluate the way that they see politics, right? Progressives are arguing that more pocket power should be delivered to the average American. That is like one of the foundational tenets of progressivism.
Yeah.
I'm
Can you
confused.
say what is more pocket power mean?
Okay, right. So this is the idea, right, that under our current system, we see that the majority of power, as well as just like monetary control, exists within people who own private property. And to essentially decrease that gap, progressives want to give more power to those who are in the workplace.
Do you not want people to own private property?
Well, I'm definitely anti-capitalist, I would say.
Yeah.
So I would say that workers should own the means of production.
Right. Oh, so you're a communist?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know.
What is communism?
I haven't talked to a real life communist.
What's
in
a
while.
communist?
Well, you want the people to own the means of production, and you don't seem to believe in private property.
The people who create value, as in create the value of commodities, should own the actual value that they create from that process. Yes.
So my answer, if you want the people, everyone in this room and everyone in this country to have more, what I would want is that you would take less from them. So you tax everybody less. You remove regulation. You create the conditions for competition and capitalism so that more people will have more of their money. I want you, I assume you work. Do you work?
Yeah.
Do you pay taxes?
Yeah.
I want you to keep more of your money.
Right.
I don't know what you do. I don't know how much you earn. Whatever it is you earn, I want you to have more of that money so that you can put that money back into the system.
The majority of wealth in
this
this system is owned by 1% of the population. You understand that, right? And where does that wealth come from?
Wait, 1% of the population. Do you know how much percent they pay in taxes? That 1%?
Not nearly enough, because the majority of their wealth comes from.
It's 47%. Hold on. So 1% of the population pay 47%. You accept that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would be their fair share?
What percent of that?
What would be their?
Let me check. Yeah, it's actually about 40% of the tax, not 47%. I don't really agree with this talking point. If you want to make America great again, then you should go back to the tax code that was good back in those good days. I think back in the 1950s, the tax on the 1% was up to like 30% or somewhere close to that. So I believe that it should be somewhere close to that.
Is their actual wealth that they own? That again, majority of these lineages of power and ownership
what would be
date
their fair
back
share?
to
What would be their
first
fair share?
accumulation of.
What would be their fair share?
I would say that the fact that they own so much.
1%
You're not letting me finish
47% in taxes.
Here's my problem. You're not letting me finish the point, so we can't get from point A to B. Do you understand that?
Okay, so
cool.
if you accept that 1%
there's not going to be a fair
47%,
share when their wealth is coming from the back ends of colonialism. So that's not going to work.
Okay, we got to pause there. We're going to reset. Please return to your seat. You've been voted out.
I can't believe all these MAGA conservatives in my chat, but can't nobody call in or join Discord. Y'all are some cowards. That's clear as day. Y'all are some cowards. Y'all can't just come up here, join Discord, or do y'all not have a phone that's working? Because y'all love typing out words, but can't speak and talk behind what you want to say.
He's back. All right.
Good to see you again, Dave.
Nice to see you.
It's interesting to point to like 5 anecdotal examples as like an overall consensus on where the American people are moving.
Well, I think they qualify more than anecdotal in that Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat member of Congress. Bobby Kennedy is a Kennedy, which is a standard bearer for Democrat
Do you think
policies.
Bobby Kennedy is also in alignment with most of his family? Would you say that they would concur that he's a representative of the Kennedy family?
I don't know about most. I know some don't like
most
it.
don't like it.
Yeah, I don't think Bobby Kennedy was a regular Democrat by any means. I think he was the black sheep of his family politically, and he was a little thrown off at that.
Especially those that are the most vocal and still participate in politics.
He's the
But
one
we can
that's
move
in the
from
midst
that.
of the
Talking about people like
political-
Joe Rogan, Bill Maher, these
Yeah.
are people that thrive off of clicks and popularity. What's more clickbaity than I left the left? So many people.
One shot thrill. Go ahead and give me a try. I don't do all that. I don't do all the over talking. I don't yell or scream or any of that mess. I'm too chill for that. But you can certainly come into my Discord, give me a call, and we can talk some shit out. How about that? Two grown men, or if you're a woman, whatever. Yeah.
People get that, not just because they're getting a whole new audience in order to capitulate to,
Yeah.
but there's also like,
so you think Joe Rogan,
there's also like a lot of like,
hold on,
there's a lot of like oligarchic money
hold
too
on.
that like
That's quite
can
a claim.
incentivize people to change their worldview.
Wait. That's
like
quite, that's,
Russian money.
Hold on. That's
like
quite,
for people
hold
like
on.
Tim Pool
Hold
or
on.
like what was the Rubin report?
Yeah.
Did that also
Yeah.
accept Russian money from Tenet?
All right, I'm more than happy to talk about that. But
Let's do
just
it.
very quickly, to impugn Joe's motives, that at the day before the election, he suddenly said, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump for financial or click motives when he's the largest podcaster in the world. That's what you just
I'm
said.
not saying it's just
That
Joe
is-
Rogan.
that
I'm
is
saying
no, but that
that's
was
indicative
that-
of people
that
who
is
rely
quite-
on clicks.
That is quite
We
a
can
claim.
walk over Joe Rogan specifically.
Yeah.
I think his brain broke during
Yeah.
COVID. I'm gonna be honest,
Yeah.
because he went from somebody who went from like a huge Bernie Sanders supporter, so
Well,
pro
he-
single payer health.
Yeah, his brain did break. Blue states make all the money and bail out red states. AGA is socialism ironic. Yeah, that is true. Most of the blue states, they get bailed out. I mean, most of the red states get bailed out by the blue states. That's just a well-known fact on how money flows within this country. Most of the blue states make majority of the money, and the red states rack up deficits that has to get bailed out by blue states. It's just the way it is. Poor, really poor states like Mississippi highly depend on richer states like New York, California to kind of hold them up. And they depend on things like welfare and several other things to keep the state afloat.
Healthcare, ensuring that we're more diplomatic in our international.
Do you think
policy,
it's
but
possibly he just
all of those-
evolved? Do you think it's possibly he just evolved to different points? than
All
you
of
did?
those
Do you
days.
think his brain
Real
broke?
quick.
It's not possible that he just
Real
started
quick,
thinking
Dave.
about things a little
all
bit
of those are
differently than you.
political foundations.
Yeah.
Believing that the United States should not continue interventionism, believing that universal health care should be a right to people. These are political foundations.
No,
you don't
but
just
that- but
switch
that's not-
your
no,
political
no.
foundations like
No,
that.
well, hold on.
You
First
find
off,
that people are bullying you,
It
or
is-
you're
it is
saying
not
the
a-
left's
it's
too
not a-
mean,
it's not
as
a
I've
right,
heard a lot
It's
of
not
times.
a right to someone else's labor. You have a right to.
We can have a
free
universal health care
speech.
debate if you want, but I'm talking
Sure.
the overall why America shifted
Okay,
to the right.
but it seems
I have to talk about
it seems
the
to me
last
you're-
person who debated.
it seems
Most
to-
people feel like they can't get a leg up in this economy.
Okay,
and
but-
when you have a Democratic Party, this is where I'm pretty critical of Joe Biden. You're going to love this.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
I think that the Biden administration and then the following Kamala Harris presidential campaign, I don't think.
What is this? Women. One likes them losers, or as they would spell it, losers. Yeah, true. I think MAGA men are having a hard time grabbing women. I think that's an actual thing. That's why Nick Fuentes is calling himself an incel, and that's what involuntary celibate. Weird shit.
I think that they focus enough on what specifically needs to change in order for the average American to feel like their economic conditions are getting better. And while we can follow the metrics economically, and inflation was going down, unemployment was lower, most people didn't feel that. And when you feel like your rent is burdening you, 34% of Americans feel rent burdened, which is huge. When you feel like the grocery prices are continuing to go higher, you're going to try to find an alternative. And when Donald Trump is saying, look, I'm going to fix all of the problems, I'm going to make sure everything's okay, some people are like, yeah, I want to go ahead and go
Well,
with
that's
that.
what politics is, right? Like it's a secular
but
four-year.
we're not saying that ideologically Americans are more right-wing. Why do progressive
No, hold
ballot
on.
propositions pass even in
Hold on.
red states?
Hold on.
Nebraska, Ohio, we could
All
go
right,
over
buddy,
minimum
I
wage
got you,
increases.
I got you. You did a lot there. Okay.
Let's answer some of
So,
it.
okay, I'm trying. So first off, you want to talk about the tenant thing? What do you want to talk about? Where do you want to go? I'll even
The
give it
tenant
to
thing
you.
would be
I'll give it to
interesting.
you. Where
Let's
do
talk
you
about the
where do you
tenant
want to
thing.
go?
Yeah. Why did you take Russian money?
Yeah.
Donald Trump has, well, let me read this chat first. MAGA gives money to trillionaires and tax breaks and blame brown people. That is facts. Donald Trump is the single biggest reason our deficit is the way it is now on the national scale. Donald Trump has racked up a deficit based off of his first term tax cuts, and now the big beautiful bill that has increased our deficit by, I believe, like what, 60%, and we're still in a bad position economically. I have yet to see a bill that adds this much to our deficit and has done nothing for this country economically. But that's what Trump has done in his first term and second. His first term, he racked up a huge deficit when he didn't have to before COVID. Then COVID happened, and an even bigger deficit had to ensue. Now Trump in his second term, he's passed the big beautiful bill, is one of the most largest deficit creating bills in American history. That's insanity.
Pretend like you didn't know.
I was reached out to by Lauren Chen, who you might know as what's her name, Post Millennial Online, or
she's like
something.
the Canadian white nationalist that's Asian.
Roaming millennial, and I've known her for about 10 years.
Okay.
And we were friendly over the years, and we had agreements and disagreements, and we were on each other's shows. And she contacted me a couple of years ago and said that she had some backers that she was talking to, and she was starting a new network, and they were talking to all sorts of people. She mentioned Tim Pool. She mentioned a whole bunch of creators that you guys know and I'm sure love. But it was people all over the political aisle. She said they wanted to create a free speech network. I said to her, listen, I am extremely, extremely busy, but I would consider doing something for you as long as I 100% control it. You have no control over the content whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask for a ridiculous amount of money because I don't have time, and we'll see if we can come up with something.
So to come to your defense, I'm not going to attribute you. Like, let's say you didn't know that. And I'm not trying to say that you were able to know that it was Russian money.
Yeah.
But what I do think is interesting is that this anti-woke movement that just says woke a lot and calls it an ideology, it is so easy to be ideologically aligned that Russian propagandists are like, yes, these are our people. This is how we're going to get the American people on board. That's more...
Yeah, I'm not watching that 250 year anniversary mess that they got going on at the White House. I was thinking about streaming it, but I'm not watching that shit. Nah.
Like the issue. It's not really your fault.
What show
it's
did
more
I,
so that
what,
like your
what,
whole ideology is like wokeness is
Let
bad.
Dave
What
respond,
what show did I do for Russia?
What
show did I do for
No,
Russia?
I'm not saying you did a show for Russia. I'm saying Russia saw you as a stooge who could easily say the talking points that benefited them.
But do you understand?
This is a misnomer in the chat. That's not true. What the Big Beautiful did was make Trump tax cuts in the first term permanent. That's all. It didn't create any new taxes as far as I know. I didn't say that it created new taxes. I said that it created new tax cuts. And it did. It made the previous Trump tax cuts permanent, yes, but the Big Beautiful bill did not only include his first term tax cuts. You realize that, right? I hope you do.
Understand, they gave me no talking points. I did a show. It was a call-in show.
But here's what we're missing, Dave, right? I'm not saying Russia gave you a script to say. I'm saying Russia's like, yes, this is our guy. If we fund him more and we give him more influence, he's going to do it for us without even getting a script. Isn't that embarrassing?
No.
You did it without even getting instruction from them.
It's a quite literal fantastical adventure that you just went on there. Literally.
What's the adventure?
Literally, I did a call-in show
Why
for
would
them.
Russia choose you and Tim Pool? Wait, why would Russia choose you and Tim Pool?
Hold on, you don't even know what I did.
And this is an interesting line of questioning. Dave Rubin and Tim Pool were investigated for being paid by Russian assets, essentially Russian spies, and they were being paid by this Tenet media company. And it got real messy because Russia was paying these guys and sending crazy amounts of money to these guys for some of their talking points. And it's weird because if you actually pay attention to Tim Pool's content, he started being very critical of Ukraine after a certain point. He started receiving that money. And so did Dave Rubin.
You don't even know what the Tenet show that I did, do you? Did you ever watch it? Do you know the name of it? Do you know anything that I did? So you don't. So you quite literally have no idea what you're talking about.
They just gave you money because they're altruistic?
No. Buddy.
They're just like, we're thinking of giving it to Dave.
No, because, no, well.
The BBB also took away free school lunches from millions of children. Yes, it did. It limited and took away school lunches from a lot of kids out there.
First off, so just to be clear, you have literally no idea what you're talking about. You don't know the name of the show. You don't know the name of the show that I did. You don't know the name of the show that I did for them or what I did.
I don't think I need to know the specifics on a podcaster who takes Russian money.
Oh my God. No, man.
It's so easy to become a podcaster with Riverside. You just need a concept and a way to record it.
But Dave is trying to respond to you.
Yeah.
Like, let's hear his side of the story.
He's accusing me of not knowing anything. I know he took Russian money.
But he's also.
Dave Rubin is sketch, and lies about Tim Pool. Here we go. Well, Tim Pool did take Russian money. That is verifiable. And Dave Rubin also took Russian money. That is verifiable. They took money from Tenet Media. Any other media person or media personality that was receiving money from a foreign country put out there by the foreign government, you would consider that concerning, especially if this media commentator had a large following. Like, stop making excuses for grown ass men.
We also haven't heard his entire
I literally did a call-in show at first, so my audience just called me and asked questions. Sometimes we talked about basketball, we talked about video games. It had literally nothing to do with foreign policy. I don't think we did one show on Russia or anything else. And then we shifted the show. That was kind of boring to me, so I was like, my team, 5 minutes before we go live, we'll pick viral videos. Woman throws hamburger at somebody at Wendy's, and I'll respond to it. That's what we did. And then guess what happened? After about 6 months of that, because I controlled the entire thing, I didn't even know what the clips were before I was doing them, the deal was off. They didn't want to do it anymore because I did not do anything. Yeah, and also notice I'm not under federal indictment. I'm not sitting here with a lawyer or anything else. And as a matter of fact, Merrick Garland, who I'm no friend of, basically said that the influencers had nothing to do with this. And if you read the just a second. And if you read the indictment, I'm the one that.
Merrick Garland said that you guys had nothing to do with it because you guys claimed that you didn't know. But if I was receiving multi-million dollars from a company that I claim to not know anything about, that I didn't look into or anything, I'm receiving millions of dollars from this company. And I'm not looking into this company. I'm not seeing where this money comes from. I'm noticing that this money comes at a certain time of day, which happens to be midday in Russia. But I'm not looking into anything about this company. I don't want to look into anything about this company that's sending me millions of dollars. That's the sense that they're trying to make up. I don't know.
That got on the Zoom call with the backer to ask more questions about it and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Dave, I'm not saying you were saying Russia's such a great country, everyone should love Vladimir Putin. And I get that your show might not even been political in nature.
I know. So you didn't, just to be clear, you didn't know the show. You didn't know the show or what I do.
But the fact that they are building the social capital of the Rubin Report being larger in infrastructure is because.
It wasn't the Rubin Report. It wasn't even the Rubin Report.
You as an entity, Dave, they want to legitimize you more in the eyes of the viewers that they are trying to capture.
All these MAGA conservatives, call in. I mean, you can join the Discord. I have a Discord up. You can call this number that's right up here on stream, and you'll get me. Let's talk this out. Y'all seem to be so supportive of Trump and MAGA and his policies and this war and all the other shit. So, yeah, come on, let's talk about it.
Capture. That is the point of why Russia paid you specifically. They don't do it out of the kindness of their hearts. They didn't do it because they're like, Dave seems like a good guy. They did it because Dave's politics is advocating for cheerleading for Donald Trump policies, regardless of any criticism. That is the point.
Where is the case?
What do you mean, where's the case?
Where's the case? Where's the case right now? Why am I even able to talk about it? Why don't I have a lawyer sitting here? Where's the case?
I'm not saying what you did was illegal in nature.
Because you claimed ignorance. You claimed, and also Tim Pool claimed that they didn't know anything about Tenet Media or where the money was coming from. They just signed a contract, they claimed that they hid everything from them, but was receiving millions of dollars from this company. Like, I don't understand. Me personally, I would not receive millions of dollars from a company and not look into said company and see where this money was coming from. These are the same creators that talk about dark money in politics, the secret cabals, and all these conspiracy theories, but will be willingly ready to take money from a secret company that they don't know anything about. This is the hypocrisy from the right that I'm talking about.
Just saying that.
Well, hold on. There was a federal indictment. Wouldn't I be a little afraid to be talking about it right now?
I'm not, Dave. I'm not claiming.
Are they?
I
have they
started
got?
this
Is anyone
conversation.
is anyone in jail because
saying
of this?
you
or
might not
anything
even have known about the Russian money. I'm not trying to cast that blame on you. I'm just saying it's interesting that your show is so ideologically aligned with what Russia wants for the United States that they are going to give you money to continue to do it. That is the point.
What is it that I do for Russia?
You suck Donald Trump's dick without criticizing any bad thing that he does.
All right, yeah, we got to pause. Mason, you got to go.
Sorry.
I mean, it's clear as day he does. I mean, a lot of these MAGA people, politicians, and a lot of these social media personalities, they will accept anything Trump does. And even if a previous president did it, Trump can do it worse, and they won't even bat an eye. It's a bunch of snowflakes. It's a bunch of hypocrites. It's a bunch of people with no backbone. A bunch of cowards. I mean, you see it here. I got this phone number plastered in front of my stream, but they'll rather sit and chat and talk shit instead of calling me and talk to me to my face or directly, vocally.
Hello.
I actually will agree with you that establishment Democrats have done a really terrible job of ensuring that their policies reflect what the people actually want. Most people want universal health care.
Yeah.
Most people want free higher education so that they can actually get a job and move up in life.
I don't know that it's most people, but a certain set of people
will
do.
say that they would love for the rich to be taxed at the
And let's see, notice Druid 4986, I think. Well, that stuff happens all the time, though. Just look at AdBlue. Just because a country gives money to a company who in turn gives money to someone else doesn't make that the last person an asset. No, it necessarily doesn't. But when a foreign entity secretly funnels money into this tenant media company, and this tenant media company specifically invests in conservative media personalities, that's a concern. There's no other way around it. That's a big concern. And AdBlue doesn't do anything like that from what I'm aware. There hasn't been any foreign country putting money directly into AdBlue to put into a campaign or to put in towards any type of media personalities.
same rate that they used to be, closer towards the 90%, rather than taxing the rest of the population that can barely pay their rent.
Yeah.
And then they're watching shows like yours, and they're hearing ideology more so than factual evidence.
Yeah.
And they're saying, you know what? Yeah, the Democrats, establishment Democrats, haven't been doing much that they said that they were going to do. So let me listen to this guy, and everything you give is emotion and ideology. So yeah, sometimes people who don't have nearly as much critical thinking as they probably should are going to move to the right.
Yeah.
But honestly, the base that's actually growing are the progressive base. Young voters are becoming much more progressive than they ever were.
Yeah.
Why? Because again, most people
Well,
want
I
the
agree. I
universal
agree with
healthcare.
that. That a lot of young people are very confused about what America is
they're
and what
confused
freedom
about what
is.
they want?
Yeah, they are. So you want I mean, we could just do a few of what you just said. So how much money would you like to take from anyone to get whatever policy you want? What is the number? How much money should anyone have that you want to take to get whatever it is that you want done? Please give me a number.
It's interesting that you're using the rhetoric of taking when we're literally talking about a state, a society that functions solely through making sure that most people have their basic needs met.
So how much?
Unfortunately, establishment Democrats have moved so towards the corporatist side that they have forgotten what the people actually want.
So how much of Elon,
that's where we
how
agree.
much of
Where
Elon
we
Musk?
disagree
All right, so let's use Elon
is your
Musk for
rhetoric
example.
around I'm going to take as much money as I
Well,
can
it is.
from the rich.
It is taking.
It's not
No, it is. Of course, it is. What do you mean? If you don't give it.
Okay, let's take a look at this. Like I said earlier, look at the Clinton Foundation. They took a ton of money from foreign countries who they in turn gave money out of their groups out to other groups, but doesn't make these groups assets of that country. The Clinton Foundation didn't give money directly to social media personalities, and So are we calling the Clinton Foundation some type of foreign proxy that pays media personalities? Because that's not the same thing. Like I started this stream off with, the comparisons that some of these conservatives tried to make are like weird. Like I don't understand how you're trying to compare these two things when they're completely different.
If they say we're going to take it and you don't give it, they're going to put you in jail, right? So it is taking. If
You're
it
saying
is so
taxes,
benevolent,
if you don't pay your taxes, you're
yeah.
going to jail.
If it is so benevolent
Right.
to do these things, then why don't more people do it?
No, it's just part of being a person living in a country.
Okay, so
Every
how much,
country has taxes.
So how much of Elon Musk's money would you like to take from him to do what?
I would
Tell me.
actually like
Yeah.
for billionaires and the
Yeah.
rich in general to
Yeah.
pay the same amount that they were paying back in the 1950s.
Okay, so that's a rather radical position if you want.
In the
if you-
1950s?
Yeah.
Going back to a 1950s tax code is radical in America. When did that happen?
Mostly
Yeah.
it was Republicans
And
that were
so
in
you want
office.
to give that money to the system and the government, which you don't seem to like very much, right? You're talking about corporate Democrats and you don't like the Republicans, but your solution seems to be, I will take more money and put it into the system to do what I want. What I would prefer to,
do what
is
most
that
people want.
what I would prefer to do is that you have a job.
Of course.
Yeah, okay, so I would like you to keep more of your money. I want everyone, again, in this room to keep more of their money. You know what happens when rich people have more of their money? They hire more people. They
That is
invest in more
factually
things.
so untrue.
No,
it is crazy.
no,
and that's what I'm
no,
saying. People
no.
like you will spit out this rhetoric,
Yeah.
and people who
But
are
it is
living
completely true.
paycheck to
Do you-
paycheck
let
and
me-
don't
let
have
me ask
nearly
you.
as much critical
Okay, we
thinking.
gotta
as-
pause there. We're out of time. We're out of time.
Yeah. My final surrounded claim is that the modern left cares more about ideology than reality.
All right, if you would like to debate this prompt, get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
What if there was a song about young man, big dream, in the style of
Looks like we got a call. Who this be?
Call from.
Here.
Yeah, hello.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm fine. Let me make sure the stream hears you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
All right. And what would you like to talk about today, sir?
Just curious. Thought I'd call in. I was just kind of scrolling through YouTube Shorts.
Okay. Are you a Trump supporter?
I would say compared to the alternative, yes, but not absolutely.
Okay. Do you support this Iran war? Any other policies of his that you support?
The Iran war, I'm conflicted on, I would say.
You said the Iran war you're a little iffy on?
Yeah, I am, right? Because, like, obviously he ran on the platform of, keeping us out of foreign wars, we're going to focus on America rather than international pursuits and, strong arming the rest of the world and stuff like that.
Okay, that's
And
understandable.
I can kind of understand some of the talking points coming from Rubio and coming from Trump and everything. We want to make sure that this regime doesn't have nuclear weapons. Okay, understandable. I just don't want this to turn into another Iraq or Afghanistan 10-year forever war.
Yeah, for sure. It's starting to look that way though, because Trump said it would be 4 weeks, then 2 more weeks, then he said 2 more weeks again. So that's a little iffy.
Yeah, that's fair too.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a lot of noise too. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Oh, you're
You want
good.
to keep talking? I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay. So, where was I going with that? So, like, it's hard to tell what's noise and what's, actually going on, right? Like, there's a million people dissecting what Trump says, who have a preconceived notion of who Trump is. They don't like him, right? So they want to undermine anything he says, right? So we get that in the news headlines. We get the anti-Israel people, right, who think we're kind of just acting on the behalf of Israel.
True.
I don't know whether that's the case or not. I kind of doubt it. And then you kind of have the camp of people who are just gonna, blindly follow him, whatever he says.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to see,
Yeah,
what he's saying. Is he trying to push negotiations via public opinion? Like, it's very hard to cut through the noise in this topic, I would say.
Yeah, true. So yeah, I don't want to dig too much into the topic if that's not something that you want to discuss too much. We can, go more into the domestic policy as far as his economy, anything that he's done
Sure.
domestically. Is there anything there that you approve of?
Well, I definitely approve of the majority of the deregulation that's occurred, right? The stock market is clearly performing pretty well. My accounts are doing great. Retirement's looking good. Like, counts for something, I would
Okay.
say.
Okay. Do you think Trump is doing well economically compared to any other president, such as Biden?
Yeah, I think so. Like, if you look at the rate at which the S&P has increased over, the last 14 months compared to the average rate at which it increased under Biden, I would say it's certainly higher, right? And you can
Okay.
see that if you just, go into Robinhood and chart out the S&P.
Yeah, I can acknowledge if you look at the entirety of the Biden year, the Biden term, his last term,
hmm
that the S&P did go up at a slightly slower rate than what we've seen from Trump so far, but
Right.
particularly that
And I feel like that's kind of the opposite of what you would expect, right? Because Biden inherited, an already depressed economy due to kind of the COVID situation that was going on. So you would
yeah,
expect the peak out of that to be, at a rapid rate. And unfortunately, it wasn't.
yeah, that could be multiple factors there, but we could dig into that. I want
For sure, but I
to
feel like COVID's the big one, right?
Yeah, COVID is a big one into that, and the Ukraine war, also. But I
Well,
would,
but that would have aided the economy, if anything, right? Because they're buying stuff from our contractors, right? You get the whole military-industrial complex, right? If
well,
anything, that should have increased the rate at which the economy recovered.
not necessarily, especially if the world economy was still recovering from COVID at the point when the Ukraine war popped off. That might have hindered that recovering or the recovery rate a little bit when it comes to that war in Ukraine.
Right, but then I feel like that would be due to COVID and not due to the war in Ukraine.
Yeah, it would be due to COVID, but the war in Ukraine probably slowed that recovery a little bit. You get what I'm saying? Because when the war in Ukraine happened, we were slowly but surely recovering at that point. But
hmm
that war certainly didn't help things specifically.
Well, could I ask you how you think it damaged the economy, at least domestically?
It shut down trade for a good bit. I know that first year of the war, it did like hinder trade in that area of the world.
Well, but
Um,
I feel like the extent to which trade was hindered was kind of by choice of the United States, right? We put all these trade sanctions on Russia, right? The Europeans weren't relying as much on Russian oil.
well, not necessarily. War breaking out in a country in Eastern Europe hinders trade
hmm
regardless if it has anything to do with America or not.
I mean,
And the
I
shutting
understand
down of
what you're saying.
airspaces
I
and
don't know that I agree, right? Because like Ukraine isn't in the center of any trade routes. Ukraine itself doesn't have a large GDP, right? They're not a major trade partner, right? The most they really have is agriculture and raw materials. So, in terms of Europe's GDPs, I don't even think it ranks top 10.
yeah, it doesn't rank top 10, but for that area,
So
for that
I don't see how an event in Ukraine would have hindered the United States at all. It certainly hindered Russia, right? Because we put sanctions on them. We locked down a shit ton of their assets, right? They couldn't access that stuff. Russia was certainly hurt economically by the Ukraine war. The
yes,
United States, I think the jury's out on that.
I wouldn't think. I'm just saying that war and the inception of the war itself kind of slowed the recovery rate under COVID. So it's COVID. We were recovering, then war happened, and it probably well, I'm saying that it did slow that recovery down a little bit. And
Okay. I mean, like, I
I
understand what you're saying, but I'm going to have to I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with that point.
I,
Not
I,
disrespectful. Let me
I
not
can
do that.
understand that. I'm just basing it off of Ukraine kind of being the breadbasket of that area of the world,
hmm
and also Ukraine just kind of being invaded by a whole other large country. Well, one of the largest countries on this planet. That kind of interrupted things, especially when it kind of happened out of nowhere. I mean, there was things being said about a war possibly being breaking out in Ukraine, but
hmm
I don't think anybody just seriously thought that it would actually happen the way it did. Um,
Well, and why do you think it happened when it did?
why do I think it happened when it did? Multiple things. Ukraine was getting close to being a part of NATO. That's one thing.
Mhm.
Ukraine was in talks of being, you know, they were in talks of joining NATO at that point in time. And there were
Right. And which
situations.
administration was kind of pushing that?
I believe at that time it was Biden. Biden had just got in.
Okay. So yeah, we're on the same page with that. Yep.
Yeah. So I can
Yep.
understand
And
that.
Russia took it as a threat, and then they reacted probably stronger than necessary.
Yeah, true.
Put it
I don't.
mildly.
Yeah, I don't believe that, any country, any sovereign country has the right to do whatever they see fit. If Ukraine wanted to join NATO, I think that's fine. So yeah, as far as that, domestically, to bring it back domestically, do you think Donald Trump is doing a better job economically than Biden?
Overall, I would say yes. We'll see what happens with gas prices, right? I'm going to give him at least until midterms. We'll see how that pans out, right? The political pressure to end the war hasn't exactly ramped up yet. So if things are still kind of looking the same come August,
Okay.
they might switch. But so far, yeah, certainly he's doing better economically than Biden.
Okay. Will you acknowledge that there's no parameter if we're looking at Biden's last year and Trump's first year and going into 2026, there's no parameter where this Trump term is better than Biden's last year?
Based on what metrics?
Inflation, unemployment, yeah, just about all affordability, grocery prices, gas prices, all of it.
You think wait, are you saying just the last year of Biden's administration?
Yes.
You mean when he had to get shit together so he could fluff numbers up so the election would look better?
Fluff numbers up so things wasn't improving from year over year? Like even the last two, if we count the last 2 years.
When we began talking, right, we established that if you compare all of Biden's first term to what Trump has done so far, just economically, domestically, Trump is beating out Biden. If you're only going to take that last year, 2024, I think that's a bit unfair, right? Because what happens in election season is things change so you can get 6-month numbers that look really good on campaign trails when it doesn't reflect, the entire administration for the last 3.5 years prior.
We can go back and look at 2003 and 2004. I mean 2023 and 2024 and look at Trump's 2025.
So let's look at 2023's inflation versus 2025's inflation, for example. I can almost guarantee 2025 is going to have a lower rate of inflation year over year.
Yes, but that was because inflation just dropped down from, I think it was like a peak of 9% from like 2022.
Right, during the Biden administration, due to his monetary policy.
Yes.
Which is bad for Americans.
Yes.
Yes,
true.
I agree.
But if you look at the overall trends, the inflation rate was going down year over year after that peak. What happened once Trump got back into office?
I think it continued to drop.
No, it didn't.
From everything I've seen.
It went right back up.
So when did it increase?
Biden had a flat rate of 3% inflation rate when he left office. It went back up to 3.8 after Trump.
Okay, but 3.8 is still lower than the average of Biden's term.
It's lower than the average, but if Biden was able to bring inflation down to an inflation rate of 3%, it went back up to
Why didn't he do it in 2020? Oh, if he was able to do it.
Because when the
Because he didn't actually care about the American people. He wanted to have a good number for the campaign trail.
The Inflation Reduction Bill passed when?
To be fair, the Inflation Reduction Bill was maybe 0.1% supposed inflation reduction and was a shit ton of other things shoved into it.
But inflation did go down after it passed, did it not?
Inflation went down the month before it passed, though.
Inflation did go down after it passed, right?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that's because it passed, right? Inflation was already trending down by the time it was passed.
Okay, I'll give you that. But why is it going back up under Trump?
I'm not too sure. The last time I checked the numbers was probably October, and as far as I knew, it was still going down around then. So maybe the war, maybe they're printing money.
Printing money, maybe tariffs, maybe the war, just like you just said. Yeah. A lot of these things that
I
Trump
think part of it too is what's going on at the Fed right now. I think that's a big part we haven't talked about.
going on with the Fed, you mean raising or lowering interest rates?
Correct, right? So Jerome Powell is currently on the way out, right? And him and Trump have had a tumultuous relationship, to say the least. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a little final middle finger before he gets pushed out.
Okay, but that's not. I mean, the Fed usually responds to inflation. They lower or raise interest rates in response to inflation or what they think inflation might be. And for what I understand, they haven't really changed much, if anything, from
Right, and I
the
think that's kind of
Biden
been Trump's
term.
gripe with them,
But still,
right? Like
even
Trump's been publicly pressuring Powell to lower rates for 8 to 10 months at this point, which is why Powell is no longer going to be the federal chair or the
but
chair of the Federal Reserve, rather.
but I mean, Biden didn't need anything from the Fed to decrease inflation in his last 2 years.
Right, because inflation was artificially so high already. All they had to do was slow the money printer.
So
Right, like if inflation, like let's just say average inflation is 3% for the sake of argument, right? It ramped up to give or take 10% during COVID, right?
Yeah.
Because of emergency checks and stimulus and this and that. And then from there, it's going to decline naturally back to baseline once the situation that arose that caused the increase of inflation has disappeared, which is COVID, right? That's no longer a pressing situation for the United States of America.
Oh, sorry.
Right, so you can't say it's because of Biden that inflation is being lowered. It's because COVID is no longer an issue that inflation is being lowered.
Okay, and
It
even if
wasn't
I
Biden's.
even
Oh, I'm
if
sorry,
I
go ahead.
do, well, yeah, true. I can give you that, but even if that is the case, I will still have to say, why is it going up under Trump?
My guess would be the war.
There was a war in Israel, I mean Gaza, under Biden, but the inflation continued to go down.
No, that's true, but it's not one we were actively involved in, right? We didn't have a what do you call it, an aircraft carrier parked outside of Gaza, for example.
True.
Right, and our oil prices weren't getting affected, which I think is probably why inflation's going up a little bit, right? It's the
And
pressure from
that,
the oil prices. And the
yeah,
crude oil.
and that's a decision that Trump made, right?
Yes, right, because from what he's saying, the ends justify the means, right? If in 10 years the Iranian regime has a nuke and they decide to use it, I'd rather have $4 gas for a couple months than no New York City. You know what I mean?
We haven't received any nuclear material from Iran. They still have their nuclear material.
I know.
So
It's a huge problem, and that's why the war hasn't ended and why
Yeah.
negotiations are still ongoing.
Huge issue. It doesn't seem like this guy's a good negotiator at all. But to bring it back,
Well,
go ahead.
You could say that, but I think that's a little bit unfair, right? You look at the relationship with China, right? We're not in a hot war with China by any means. You look at what he did in North Korea in his first term. You look at the Abraham Accords. I mean, he has a pretty solid track record of international agreements.
So you think Trump did a good
He
job
even
with
got
China
all the
because
European
we're
nations to contribute more of their GDP to NATO.
Wait, you think Trump did a good job with China because we're not at war with them? We're not in a hot war with them?
Correct. Yeah, it's mostly relegated to the AI data center race.
I mean,
I think if Biden were still in office,
all
right? If
presidents.
Biden or Kamala got elected, I think the odds that China moves to take Taiwan increase exponentially.
I don't believe that's true. I mean, with Trump using all of our military assets in Iran and using a lot of our missiles that we have a limited amount of in Iran, it's lessening our ability to be effective in a situation like Taiwan.
Well, I agree and I disagree, right? In the immediate short term, yes, that's true. In the medium to long term, I think it's the opposite, right? What we're doing right now is effectively a war game, right? For everybody that's active military personnel, right? To prepare for something like a hot war around Taiwan.
But we have training for that. I mean, we don't have to actually go to war with somebody to train our military personnel.
I'm not saying that's the only reason, but if we're talking about, its effect on China and our readiness,
Yeah,
right?
I
I
mean,
don't think this hurts our readiness.
Yeah,
in the long term.
as far as that aspect, I get it. But as far as our preparedness, having a stockpile of missiles ready to go, having actual aircraft carriers in the area ready to go, having just the tools and essential needs ready to go in case of a Taiwan situation, we have all of
let me
that
ask you
focus
this
in the
question,
Middle East
right?
right now. Okay.
Is the Persian Gulf closer to the United States or is it closer to China?
Is the what closer to China?
Is the Persian Gulf closer to China or is it closer to the United States? Right, the body of water that the Straits of Hormuz flow into.
I believe it's closer to China. I know that
Right.
just
So
navally,
if a
it would
hot
be a
war
lot
were to
easier for
break out in
China.
Taiwan,
Yeah.
wait, I'm sorry, say that last part again. I started talking, my bad.
I'm just saying navally, just on a naval aspect, it will be a lot easier for China to get to the strait than it would be for us.
Well, no, we're already at the Strait.
I mean,
But
just
my point is, if something,
if we're starting from our home locations and it was a race to the strait, I think China would be able to get there a little bit quicker,
a race
through
to the
ship.
Strait or a race to Taiwan?
A race to Taiwan, of course, China would get there first, of course.
No, I agree. So my point is now we have significant military assets that are now closer to Taiwan than they were before the Iranian war broke out.
Where was that
We also
aircraft
have
carrier
bases nearby
before
in
Trump moved it
Japan. We
to
have
the
bases
Middle
all
East?
over the South Pacific.
I don't think that's the case because that aircraft carrier, did he not take it out of the Pacific and move it to the Middle East? I forgot the name of it. Was it Abraham Lincoln
Yeah,
or
he took
was
it
it
out of the
another one?
Pacific, but it was moved closer to China, right? I think it came out of Hawaii, maybe.
I thought we moved that to the Strait, if I'm not mistaken. But maybe I'm just getting the
Yes,
aircraft carrier names
from
confused.
Hawaii to the Straits of Hormuz.
Okay.
The Straits of Hormuz being closer to Taiwan than Hawaii is.
I mean, technically, yeah, but the
So I
ideals
really don't. I don't think it hurts our readiness overall. Like if you look at the big picture,
the ideal
right? If
scenario
anything, this
is
gives our
to
current guys, really great real world experience in modern warfare. It demonstrates to the world, namely to China, that we're not averse from hard conflicts, which disincentivizes them from starting them.
so
Right, which
because
was a
we're
problem in the prior administration. If you
but
look at the amount of wars that were started,
do you
right?
think our
I
war
doubt
at
Putin would have gone into Ukraine
do you
if
think
Trump
our
was in
war
office.
with Iran is scaring China from
To
action?
some degree, for sure. Absolutely.
What did we do in Iran that would be considered scary? They
We were
still
able to handle all of the drone equipment.
they still have a large stockpile of their missiles. They have been able to rebuild their stuff. We've given them the opportunity to rebuild their arsenal. They still are able to hold down the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, but they're not, though.
Yes, they are. If
They're right now what they're doing is they're making unsubstantiated threats, right? So what
just look
happened
at
is they said we've mined all of the straits, right? So we sent out minesweepers. We haven't found any mines, but given the delicate nature of the situation, what happened with insurance companies is the large insurance companies that insure the oil tankers that pass through the Straits of Hormuz, just because there's the threat of Iranian mines in the water, those insurance companies are no longer covering those tankers, which means they're
facts.
refusing to cross.
Exactly. That's
Right, but
exactly
there's
my
been
point.
no hard evidence of, Iranian mines. I said Ukrainian. There's
Yeah.
been no hard evidence.
I mean,
We
yeah,
sent out minesweepers. We found jack shit.
there's no hard evidence of Iranian mines because it's kind of hard to just catalog each and every Iranian mine that they put out there into the sea. But we do know that.
No, my point is if the mines were there, one of them would have gone off when the minesweepers were sent in. There's been no video of that. There's been no recording of that.
That I will give you that, but that's you can also say that's because there's hardly any ships moving through the Strait of Hormuz in dangerous waters. Most of the ships
Right,
that's
I'm not
been
saying a
moving
mine
through
exploding a ship.
has
I'm
been
saying a
Iran
video of a
approved.
minesweeper going in.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying. I'm not saying like having a ship explode, right? That would be catastrophic, right? That would be, you would see the shockwave from something like that just because of all the diesel it's carrying.
Yeah. But
what I'm saying is like if they send minesweepers in, right, which are like little devices they send in to detonate these mines, you would see a video of that, right? And that hasn't been released or publicized whatsoever yet.
True.
Which leads me to believe it hasn't happened.
True.
So I think the Iranians are just talking out of their ass, trying to exert whatever power they have.
I'm not sure about that, and even if they were talking out of their ass, you can't deny that it's working against the most powerful country in the world. And that's what I'm saying is that if you look in the entirety of this war situation, you can't just say that China is looking at this and saying, "Oh, we're scared of America now," because Iran even though Trump has claimed success and winning, that they've still been able to hold down most of what America has claimed that they're going to this war over. The nuclear
Yeah,
material,
but
they
that's
still have
mostly
it.
by choice, right?
The regime is still in power. They still are able to lock down Strait of Hormuz. If China is looking at this, they're thinking, oh, this America, we might be able to take Taiwan and hold it down pretty easily.
Well, not anymore because they don't have any energy right now. So what we're doing with the Straits of Hormuz, right, is we blockaded the entire thing. Where do you think China gets most of its oil from?
We've blockaded the strait, but that doesn't open the strait. It doesn't really help the
No,
scenario.
no, but my point is the U.S. isn't relying on Iranian oil. The Communist Republic of China is.
The entire world is dependent on the oil that goes through the strait. Not
No,
Iranian oil,
no, it's not.
but the entire oil complex of this globe is dependent on oil, not just Iranian, but oil in general going through that strait. And what I'm saying is that
Yes
the
and no, only from a supply and demand perspective, right? So if
y-
there's not oil coming out of the Strait of Hormuz, right, it means more international entities are going to attempt to buy oil from the United States, which then drives up the demand, which drives up domestic oil prices.
yes, and it lessens the availability of oil globally, which also drives up prices, right? Because
Yes and no.
the
So not really
oil,
domestically, right?
if
We produce our own oil, and Trump's
it,
rolled back a lot of the Biden era policies against
if there
drilling.
is barrels of oil, millions of barrels of oil sitting in the strait and it's not
Mhm.
being released to the rest of the globe, that limits
Yep.
stock, right?
Well, but I think in the long term, right, this puts the U.S. in a stronger position,
How?
right? Because now we have international entities more dependent on us for oil as opposed to Iran,
But they have
which
to
gives
go
us
on the
leeway
other
over
side
them.
of the globe to get it.
Well, we just sent, I think it was 100 million barrels to Japan about a month ago. So,
That
it's already taken effect.
Yeah, it's they can get oil from us. That's fine. But what I'm saying is that doesn't
Well,
help
but
the
play
overall
this out in the mid to long
price of
term
a barrel,
perspective, right?
huh?
But play this out in the mid to long term perspective, right? The only reason it's squeezing the domestic oil supply is because the domestic oil supply isn't built to sustain this much oil output. So what's going to happen as a result of this, right? The world gets less dependent on Iranian oil, becomes more dependent on U.S. oil. The U.S. oil infrastructure gets built up as a result, and then you get cheaper oil as a result. And the United States is in a better international position at the end of the day.
Do you think?
Because then China has to go to us for oil, pretty much.
Do you think the United States will be able to completely replace the oil production that was coming out of the Strait of Hormuz?
If you give it 5 to 6 years, probably.
But that's 5 to 6 years of gas increases.
No, I would say
That's
it would probably start coming down after around 18 months, would be my estimate.
and that's like,
But I'm also talking out of my ass a little bit. I'm kind of just rough guessing.
yeah, I get it. But that's what I'm saying is that this was all self-inflicted. Like, we don't, even if Trump knew that we were about to go to war with Iran, one of the first things that you should have done in a situation like that is lock down the Strait of Hormuz, because every international personality, every foreign policy professional knew that that would be one of the first things Iran would do, is shut down the strait.
Well, but unfortunately, there's no real way to do that without putting boots on the ground immediately, which I think would have been political suicide for him.
Instead of bombing the
Right, because we
capital,
still, just collectively, we have PTSD from, Iraq and Afghanistan and whatnot.
instead of bombing the capital of Iran and going into the interior of Iran with our planes, why not bomb the strait and make sure that Iran had no capabilities of putting mines out or had any capabilities of sending missiles out to ships? Because we
have largely done that.
We have not. Iran is
We
still.
have. It's really just, it's from the insurance company perspective. It's the threat of Iranian mines.
We waited
Right?
until
We destroyed most of their military infrastructure. We took out their head leadership
mostly in the
to
interior.
disorganize them, and we were
Yes.
hoping that would have been enough.
Mostly in the interior of Iran, but our priority targets were in the interior. It wasn't on the strait. It was like, I understand what you're saying is that we targeted military installations and all that stuff. Fine, but we did not focus our military power on the strait itself, and making sure that Iran had no capability of shutting down anything in that strait when it comes to mines or sending missiles to oil tankers or anything like that.
No, I agree, and I really don't think they have been sending missiles out to tankers.
Well,
I know we shot down an Iranian vessel. We shot out the engine room, but I don't think the Iranians have actually launched missiles at anything going through the straits yet. I think
I,
it's all just been threats so far.
I think at the beginning, when they did shut down the Strait of Hormuz, they did strike a few vessels. But recently, it's just been small boats attacking larger tankers. Which
But so what that tells me though is they're pretty much incapacitated, right? Like just think fucking high school mentality, right? The loudest bully is usually the most insecure, weakest person.
I would believe that if the United States didn't need a whole tanker to escort a couple ships through the strait.
Well, part of that's publicity, right? And part of it too is just the political pressure of putting boots on the ground and civilian casualties. We could have this thing ended in 48 hours if we didn't care about civilian casualties and political consequences. But those are important things we need to worry about.
I don't think anybody in this war
Unlike
cares
the
about
Iranians,
civilian
we play morally.
casualties. I don't think.
Wait, say that again. I'm sorry.
I don't think anybody that's involved in this war cares about civilian casualties, especially the president when he brags about targeting power centers and things that help civilians live. I think he was talking about targeting desalination plants. Who is that going to hurt
Yeah.
anybody besides civilians?
Well, but that's the thing too, right? I think initially when they went in, right, due to the fact that the Iranian regime murdered, what was it, like 35 to 40,000 of its own people, I think they were assuming the motivation for the people to rebel was higher, right? So targeting something like a desalination plant or something like, a power generation complex might, and this is just strategic, right? This isn't moral talk. It might nudge the population to rebel. And once the population rebels, I mean, they're cooked, right? The leadership's pretty much taken out. They're hanging on by fear in the population. It means to really exert the power anymore. So I think once the civilian population turns, the war's over in less than a week.
I will kind of push back on that a little bit because whenever a country is attacked by a foreign power, it tends to consolidate the love for said country, such as America after 9/11. There was no more Republican Democrats immediately after 9/11. It was all about America because somebody.
Well, but the
from
only
a foreign
difference is
state
the U.S.
attacked us.
military aircraft didn't fly into the towers.
True, but when a foreign power attacks a country, it tends to embolden the people in that country, and they tend to support the authority in said country a little bit more because that foreign
I
entity.
agree with you in theory, but I think the situation's a little bit different, right? If you looked at the information that was coming out of Iran before we went in, right, there were mass protests against the regime. The regime was executing thousands upon thousands of its own population.
True.
Right? I don't think the U.S. coming to help, like Trump promised the Iranian people he would, is going to sour the people against the United States of America.
America has already proven that we can support revolutions without going to war. I mean, just look at Libya, Syria.
And look at the fucking mess that was.
Yes, true. But if that's what if that is what we're looking for as far as a revolution of the people, America has already proven we can put out PSYOP programs to make sure that the people will rebel against their leaders. We didn't do that. I
think it's a little bit different now in the digital age, right? We can't exactly drop flyers in the same way we used to, right? The information dissemination within these countries is so regulated and so locked down by the regime that, like, the propaganda is almost hard to penetrate.
I can get that. I just find it difficult to come to terms with, a little bit of that because Trump.
No, I get it.
Trump could have came at this situation all types of different ways, including not even pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal, which kind of created this problem in the first place.
I think the Iran nuclear deal is what created this in the first place.
The Iran nuclear deal kept Iran under, I believe, 6% enrichment levels, 9% max.
Yeah, but we more or less had to take their word for it.
There were third-party people, I think the IAE specifically, that went into these facilities and checked the enrichment levels.
Yeah, but what makes you think the Iranians don't have, a sub-level complex below what the fuck they showed them? Like, I have no faith whatsoever that the Iranians would have been
Okay, and
upfront and
if that
honest with their information.
if that was to be found, then the deal would be off and the assets would be frozen, and then we would react from there. But
Well,
from
but
what
that was found,
no, that wasn't. That wasn't found
right?
anywhere while
So
the deal
Trump
was
exited
going
the
on.
deal in his first term, right?
Yes, he did.
Biden tried to crawl back to it,
Yes.
at which point Trump took office again, and now magically the Iranians have 60% enrichment
No,
under the Biden administration.
I'm talking about during the Iranian nuclear deal under Obama that was approved under Obama. While that deal was in effect, before Trump pulled out, there was zero proof that the Iranians broke that deal before Trump pulled out.
Yeah, but then Biden went back to the deal,
No,
renegotiated with the Iranians, and then they
deal
enriched up to 60%.
wasn't agreed to. The deal was never agreed to under Biden.
No, it sounds like Biden. Shit.
Trump pulled out of that deal, bombed the Iranian general, one of those Iranian generals in his first term, and Biden, I will admit, Biden did try to negotiate some things, but it never worked out.
Well, yeah, that checks out. But to be fair, like, I don't agree with the initial deal whatsoever, right? We unfroze how many hundreds of millions of dollars worth of their own assets?
Yes,
or was it billions? It might have been billions.
To keep them away from a nuclear bomb. I mean, would you rather do that or go to war?
But how does funding an insanely ideologically possessed and violent regime disincentivize them from creating nuclear weapons?
By allowing third-party inspectors into their nuclear facilities and checking their enrichment levels. That's how.
Yeah, but like, do we really think that was going to be a legitimate check?
Every nuclear-powered country does that. Even the countries with only nuclear power plants.
Country also doesn't fund terrorist regimes across the world who inflict terror and harm on innocent people.
I mean, Russia, by extension, does the same thing.
Schizophrenic a gun.
Russia does the same thing that Iran does, by extension. So does China.
No, they're not suicidal. Russia and China do it as a means to an end.
Russia supports
I don't agree with their
Iran on several different levels.
And the Iranians are willing to kill themselves. That's the difference.
I don't think so.
I mean, just look at the tenets of radical Islam. That's what they're possessed
by. That's to assume everybody in Iran is a radical Islamist.
Not everybody in Iran, but certainly the regime in power.
That's to assume the person that was the Ayatollah, the guy that was in power in Iran before the current guy, his son. I remember looking at statements, and he said that he had no interest in building a nuclear weapon, and that a nuclear weapon was halal.
Yeah, but like, come on. If Hitler was like, no, I'm really not gassing the Jews, guys. Trust me.
Okay, just put this in your head. Iran is a extremist Islamist state, and the leader of that Islamist religion in that country says that it is against the religion to pursue nuclear weapons. He says that publicly to all of his extremist religious people, and says that it's against the religion to pursue a nuclear weapon. What does that say to you?
So I guess I would ask why. So to inspect that, I would ask what tenet of the religion prohibits this.
I'm just saying.
And then I would point to three or four examples.
I'm just saying that
exactly
he says. That. I'm just saying that he says that. I'm not saying that it says it anywhere in the Quran or anything like that. It's pretty much kind of like the Pope coming out saying that gay marriage is okay or something like that. You know. It's not necessarily in the Bible, but it's a religious leader coming out in front of his people and speaking on this issue that you are claiming that they feel differently on.
No, but I think it's pretty obvious he's lying. Right? Like, it's in his best interest to lie about that. Of course it is.
Not necessarily in
and
his best.
If you look at the terrorists,
especially
they fund,
I
doubt that they're against harming other people.
I don't know if I agree with that specifically. I mean,
well, dude, they funded the whole October 7th attack, which precipitated how many deaths?
I will slightly agree with that, but there's a whole bunch of context that kind of goes with that we're kind of missing. You get what I'm saying?
Well, I
So
think the pragmatic context is there's two military powers in the region. It's Israel and Iran wants to be the only one.
I don't know about that one either. I mean, yes, there's several different Islamic
I mean, it's more
states.
complicated, but fundamentally it boils down to a power struggle.
A power struggle? No. I mean, let's agree on this. Can we agree that Israel has a nuclear weapon? It might not be on paper,
Oh,
but
for sure.
most of
sure.
the world agrees that Israel already has a nuclear weapon, right?
Absolutely. And have they used it?
No. And that's my
That
point
would be the
exactly.
difference.
There are several
How
people.
how quick do you think it would take Iran to use a nuclear weapon on Israel once they created one?
I don't think it would be very quick at all because of the simple
It'd be
fact
10 minutes.
there's people within Israel that's talking about eliminating and completely removing people in Gaza and Lebanon and Jordan. All of these people, they're talking about they're less than you know, Israelis, they're vermin essentially. There's actual elected officials in Israel talking about this. But
No,
yet
for sure. It's nuts.
but yet there's nobody using a nuclear weapon on any of these countries. And I'm saying that take that same logic to Iran. Iran may say all types of different things, but just because they have nuclear material or even a nuclear weapon don't mean that they will don't doesn't necessarily mean that they will use it. Because
I think they would, right? Because
it still
well,
stands
but
to
think
the
about it logically,
it
right?
still
Like, let's
stands
say
to
you
this
and I had
day
nukes,
it's
right?
mutually assured destruction, you know?
Right, and that's where it differs, right? Because they're willing to die for their religion. They're willing to die for power, right? Because
there's
they
no
believe there's
proof of that.
72 virgins waiting for them in paradise.
I
That's
mean
the difference.
that's not the case. There's no proof of that. I mean, I
That's,
think
of
there are
course
other
there is.
Muslim do you think there are no Muslim countries that has nuclear weapons?
Probably not. Predominantly Muslim countries with nukes. None off the top of
I
my head.
believe Pakistan has a nuke. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they do.
Maybe, but it's probably, like 60s level technology. But yeah, that's fair.
So just because you're a Muslim extremist doesn't necessarily mean you're going to use it. Because at the end of the day, you can feel
Well, but
however you feel.
Pakistan isn't funding terror cells to the same magnitude at which Iran is.
I mean, that's because they
Like
don't
night
have
and
as
day.
much money as Iran. But I mean, if I'm pretty sure if they could, they
Right, and who
would.
gave Iran the money?
I think Pakistan still supports other sales a little bit further to the east. That's Muslim supporting. But yeah, I'm just saying that we can't
But like
say
being
that.
Muslim isn't the issue. It's the suicide ideation. It's the suicidal ideation
And I haven't
that
seen that.
disqualifies the threat of mutually assured destruction, which
I
is
ha-
why it's a different thing for Iran to have a nuke as opposed to Israel.
and I haven't seen any proof that Iran is any more
Because they don't have a
suicidal
nuke,
than
and I don't want to take
Pakistan.
that coin toss. Yeah, but like the only way to find that out is to let Iran have a nuke and then to cross your fingers and hope they don't use it. I think that's a really bad strategy.
That's a really bad strategy. I mean,
I'm sorry, it's cutting out.
I know. I'm just trying to wrap my head around this, and I understand the need to not let Iran have a nuke. I think no country should have nuclear weapons around on the planet. I think that's
No,
too much.
totally agreed.
And that's just me
Too much
personally.
power.
But not since we live in a world with nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons. Can we agree that a country with nuclear weapons, they have a certain level of protection from other countries because they have a nuclear weapon, right?
Yes, to some degree, right? There's the mutually assured destruction angle. Right? It's the big one.
So could it be that Iran is or could be pursuing a nuclear weapon for that said protection and not to use it?
No, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
So, in every other country that has a nuclear weapon, right, there's democratic elections. Whether they're rigged or not is, up for debate, in China and Russia and whatnot. But there's democratic elections. So in principle, the politicians that have their finger on the button of the nuclear codes and the nuclear button are acting as a proxy for the people. The Iranian regime took power in, what, the 70s? There hasn't been an election since. Right? They have every motivation to do whatever they can to keep themselves in power. Because they know the civilian population will tear them apart if they lose power. They know the United States will tear them apart and that Israel will tear them apart. And probably the Chinese too at this point.
Okay. So with that, I would say, well, let me ask you this. Do you think well, let me kind of rephrase this. Iran having a nuclear weapon, you're under the presumption that they would almost immediately use it or try to wipe out Israel or try to wipe out some other Christian state, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why do you think that? Again,
Because look at their prior actions.
The prior actions, funding terrorist cells, right?
Funding the indiscriminate killing of innocent people.
Indiscriminate.
Do you think they care about the casualties if they drop a nuke? I don't.
It's
You
not.
think they care about the blowback?
Well,
No, they're going to go to paradise. If they
it's
get
not
one way to
really
go.
caring about the like. If another country, if China shoots a nuke over here, it's a guarantee that they don't care about the casualties in America, but they do care about the blowback from it. You get what I'm saying?
Right. Except we know China has nukes and China's never used one.
Yes, most countries that has nukes hasn't used one. That's the point that I'm
Right,
trying to
because
get.
they know they're going to get nuked back.
And I'm saying that is
I
the
don't think
case
the
with
Iranians
Iran.
care.
I
Well,
don't.
I mean,
I
they're
don't.
willing to slaughter, tens of thousands of their own civilian population just for protesting.
So are other countries.
So I don't think they care if, a nuclear weapon hits them back in a civilian center. I don't think they give a shit about the people.
And you said it
They give a
wasn't
shit about
about.
their own power and their influence.
You said it wasn't about religion or anything like that. Can we agree that North Korea probably has a nuclear weapon?
Oh no, they for sure do. They've tested it.
Okay. We allowed them
But they're in
to.
China's back pocket. So they do what Xi
We
Jinping
allowed them
says.
to get that nuclear weapon, right? And
We
they
couldn't exactly. Well, the difference is we couldn't stop North Korea from attaining a nuclear weapon without entering a hot war with China. Right? North Korea is like the equivalent of Canada to China.
not necessarily. I mean,
You know what I mean?
North Korea is
Like imagine the
very.
Chinese tried
Yeah.
to stop the Canadians from getting a nuclear weapon. What would happen with the United States?
I'm pretty sure China would get involved in some way, if not just funding the war against, America and the North Korean war or whatever. But that's what I'm saying is that we didn't prevent North Korea from getting a nuclear weapon because we are under the assumption that North Korea will most likely not use it on America, if anything. They're going to use it
Right,
on South Korea.
they're beholden to China.
They're most likely going to use it on South Korea if they do. And North Korea.
No, I don't even think they would do that.
Yes, because mostly
that peninsula is
it's mostly
super
a
small.
defense
Like the
mechanism.
radiation blowback would be nuts for them if they did that.
Yeah, I can give you that. And mostly it's just a defense mechanism for them. So when we look at Iran, and the possibility of them getting a nuclear weapon, they have a nuclear weapon. I won't say they have a nuclear weapon. They have nuclear material at this point. If they get closer and closer to getting a nuclear weapon with no deal on the table, you support further military action, even if there might be other countries getting involved on the back end. May not be, just a direct war, but countries like Russia and China would be funding and assisting Iran in fighting against us.
Well, they already do, right? Where do you think Iran got the drones? It's all from China.
Yeah, true. So you agree that China would help Korea in the same way, right? Is insisting them, or do you think
probably more so?
More so.
Probably more so.
Okay, I get it. I guess that'll just be a point of disagreement. I mean, that's like a kind of opinionated thing anyway. That you believe that.
I just feel like the Iranian regime having a nuclear weapon is the equivalent of a cartel having a nuclear weapon, right? They don't represent the people. You know, they're more interested in military conquest and killing innocent people than they are building up their own civilian population.
I honestly don't see any proof of that. I've seen
Dude, 40,000 people are dead.
true domestically, but I don't see Iran just trying to extend their military powers outside of their borders, outside of assisting different proxies. Yes, they will fund
Then what
proxies
is Hamas?
that's what I'm saying. They will fund proxies to assist their goals within the
Oh, okay.
region.
I'm sorry. I heard won't.
Yeah,
Yep.
they will assist some of their proxies and helping some of their goals in the region, of course. But as far as
Mhm.
the state of Iran and it taking its military and its actual planes and whatnot and actually doing things in the Middle East, I haven't seen that from that state. Now the
Right, because of
proxies,
fear.
you can have that, but I doubt Iran would hand their nuclear weapon to a proxy.
Well, but the only reason they've used proxies is because they've been trying to avoid a hot war with the United States, right? It gives them plausible deniability and it acts as a smokescreen.
But why divide? Why hide from it if they're not scared of death?
Because they know they can't win an all-out war, and that's been evident so far.
If they shoot a nuclear weapon, they won't be able to win.
Well, but it depends on what you constitute winning. For them, every infidel dead is a win,
But that won't.
for
You
which they will
understand
be rewarded for in eternity.
even some of the biggest, most advanced nuclear weapons on this planet can only take out a large city, right? It is not
What do you
eliminating
mean by
all.
that?
Like some of the most advanced nuclear bombs that America has. I think.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're going to take out the entire world's population with one nuclear warhead. No.
Well, that's
But you see where I'm coming from, right? Their goal isn't necessarily constrained by the same perception of reality that you and I maintain.
I kind of get what you're saying, but out of interest of creating, well, out of the interest of stabilizing the Middle East, I would have to push
Mhm.
back against that because I mean Israel already has a nuclear weapon. Why can't one of the other Muslim countries have a nuclear weapon at this point?
Because the Israeli government doesn't have a belief that if they die defending Judaism from the Iranians, that they will go to heaven and be rewarded in eternity.
Neither do most. I mean, most Muslims are not living by that by that
No, for
mantra.
sure. But most Muslims aren't in control of Iran. It's a select group
But even
that's been in power for decades.
even the Ayatollah, the regime that's in charge, are negotiating. They're not just kind of saying that we don't care. No, they're
No,
negotiating and
they pretty
having
much
talks
said,
for a
"Come get
reason.
us," and then the Ayatollah was dead within 36 hours of the war starting.
Yeah, but I'm just saying you're saying that the regime doesn't care about dying or anything like that, but in the same breath, they're in this war and negotiating because they care about dying.
No, I don't think they care about. Wait, say that one more time. I'm sorry.
You don't negotiate if you don't care about dying. That's essentially what I'm trying to say. You don't sit there and try to
No, for
negotiate.
sure. That's why I think it's a flawed ideology, right? Because their psychology betrays them.
I get
Right? They
that,
might tell themselves they're willing to die, but they'd
but
rather prop
that
up civilian shields
but it's only
and use those to
flawed.
protect themselves.
It's only flawed if you believe that they don't care about dying.
Well, but I think that's how they mobilize and motivate their fighting force, right? The Israeli National Guard or the Israeli Revolutionary Guard.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Iranian. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Iranian
I
Revolutionary
understand.
Guard. There we go.
I get what you're saying,
But
man.
that's how you get your underlings to fight super hard for you without worrying about whether they live or die.
I
Right? It's a means of
mean,
controlling people.
I joined the military myself, and a certain aspect of joining the military, it's like, yes, you have to be willing to sacrifice your life for the country. That's a same type of sensibility, is it not?
Right, right. But what the Iranians are doing is they're projecting that ideal onto the civilian population when the civilian population hasn't signed up for that.
I'm not sure about that
Dude, when you kill tens of thousands of people just for protesting,
one. True.
like imagine Donald Trump ordered the military to kill everybody that marched in the No Kings protest. That's like the equivalent we're talking about here.
True, and I don't agree with that, and I think that's very concerning. I'm definitely not a defender of the Ayatollah, but I think that we got into this war for asinine reasons, and I think even if Iran got a nuclear weapon, I seriously doubt that they would use it because of self-interest and um, pretty much self-protection and yeah, survivability. Like I doubt that
Well,
any
but if the leaders can go hide in a bunker and they can say "F you" to the civilian population,
like we have to agree nuclear weapons have been in the hands of some unhinged people throughout, like, since nuclear weapons have been around. They've been in the hands of some unhinged people out of the history of nuclear weapons. They're still in the hands of some unhinged people, depending on what you believe.
no, for sure,
Uh,
for sure. But those people all want to live to see the next day, and they all care about their civilian populations. Whether they care about their civilian populations because they're people, or whether it's because they prop them up, is up for debate. But
yeah,
pragmatically, they care about the civilian populations and whether or not they get bombed. I don't think the same is true for the Iranian regime.
I think it's just a human thing. Now you might be able to find a random crazy person that does the little Allah Akbar, then blows up everybody. That's fine. Well, I'm not saying that's fine, but I'm saying you might find a random person that does that, or you might find a random religious fanatic that does something like that. But I think majority of Muslims and majority of human beings, period, no matter how religious you think you are, I think you still care about living, or you still
No,
have a
totally
family,
agreed.
or you still have a family of some sort, kids or relatives or something that you are interested
Well,
in
and even
making
at that
sure
point too, it's just
live.
human instinct, right?
Yeah.
Like we wouldn't have gotten here if our ancestors didn't have an impulse to survive.
Yeah. And I think that, because of that impulse, I think Iran using a nuclear weapon to wipe out a small subset of people that they think are infidels, just so they can also get wiped out and respond completely wiped out, it kind of